Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. This is Sham Kagod here. If there is no issue with the sound, can you please give me a thumbs up so that we can start the discussion now. Let me know if there is any issue. Okay, let's start then. I'm audible, right? Let's start. So yesterday we started with whatever was left out in the banking sector. Let me put in a nutshell what we have discussed yesterday. We started with the concept of cooperative. Please go through the idea of a cooperative can be asked. And again, please understand this. Some of you might simply say, sir, does cooperative questions related to cooperative, can it be asked only in economics? Absolutely no. Do not be under that impression. I've discussed cooperative in the context of banking. Can I say cooperative is associated with, let's say, social issues also? Right? I hope you understand. Rural development, social issues, etc., etc. So can be asked in multiple papers. Do not be under the assumption that cooperative always connected to economics only. Absolutely no. That is point number one. So cooperatives, basically it's a group of 10 or more adults who have come together with a common objective. We have cooperatives in multiple areas, right? And specifically we have discussed cooperatives in the banking sector. After cooperatives, we have discussed the concept of payment banking, right? What is the idea of a payment bank as well as a small finance bank? Both have been promoted by Reserve Bank of India to promote financial inclusion. Small finance bank specifically is promoted because of giving loans, right? Because they want to target certain types of small borrowers in the market, such as micro and small industries, small and marginal farmers, right, etc., and provide loans to them. Whereas in the context of payment bank, the objective is they'll be able to leverage technology and help in transfers or let's say remittances of funds from one region to another region. Right? That's the reason the concept of payment bank is also promoted. Now, after SFB and payment bank, we have discussed another idea, NBFCs, non-banking financial companies. Right? These are basically the institutions which are registered under the Companies Act. Right? They might be regulated by RBI or there are other agencies as well. Right? And NBFCs are very important because they will provide a lot of loans, specialized lending institutions are there, etc., etc. Right? So NBFCs also we have discussed. Before that, we have discussed NABFID, National Bank for Financing Infrastructure Development. Why NABFID is very relevant or very important? Simple. NABFID provides long-term loans, large value loans. Remember this, long-term and large value. And that is required, right? That is required for promotion of infrastructure segment in India or development of infrastructure. Then what are the advantages? What are the benefits? Right? Why are we promoting NABFID? And are there any concerns regarding the functioning of NABFID? That is what we have discussed. Next, after that, we have discussed the concept of the budget. Right? I hope remember the discussion related to budget. Budget is basically an exercise. It's an annual exercise conducted by the union government. Now, again, although I'm saying union government, do states have a budget? Of course, yes. Just like the union budget, we also have, right, the state budgets also. You must have heard of Rajasthan government budget. You must have heard of Karnataka government budget or Andhra Pradesh government budget, which were announced very, very recently by the respective state governments. So the union budget is presented on the first working day of February. There is no mention of the budget in the constitution. It's in fact Article 112, annual financial statement. The different concepts related to budget, such as gender budgeting, such as outcome budgeting, and zero-based budgeting. Right? Then we have discussed surplus budget, balanced budget, as well as a deficit budget. Now, after that, how the budget is prepared, how it is passed in the parliament, and what are the important terminologies associated with the budget. For example, revenue side of the budget, capital side of the budget. I hope you have revised it. You should not have any confusion regarding that. It's very, very clear. Assets and liabilities. That's a key term. Please remember that. Assets and liabilities. Right? If it is a day-to-day expenditure, day-to-day income of the government, revenue side. assets or liabilities, capital side. Simple, right? Either increasing the asset, reducing the asset, increasing the liability, reducing the liability. Keep it on the capital side. Then related to that, we have discussed the fiscal deficit, the primary deficit, the revenue deficit, the effective revenue deficit, then budget deficit, and finally monetized deficit. And I hope, remember, I've told you this, we have a concept of indirect monetization today, not direct monetization. Now I hope it is very clear why have we discontinued the concept of a direct monetization, because there is a provision under FRBM, Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act of 2003. Then what is a public debt? What is a total liability of the government? How debt is different? How liability of the government is different? How fiscal deficit? All the three terminologies are different. We have understood. Then there is a concept of off-budget liabilities, FRBM Act. Then there is a encasing review committee, encasing review of FRBM simply, which says rather than simply targeting the fiscal deficit and the revenue deficit, you should also target and reduce the public debt. And the target that has been given by the FRBM review committee is simply 60% of GDP. That is, we should have the reduction in the public debt of the government, central government, to 40% of GDP, and all the states put together, it should be 20% of GDP. And that is basically the discussion regarding FRBM review committee. Right. Apart from that, we also have discussed Finance Commission, right? Specifically a constitutional body. What does the 15th Finance Commission say? What is a vertical devolution formula? What is a horizontal devolution formula? Why should we have vertical devolution? Why should we have horizontal devolution? What was the recommendation given by 14th FC? What is the recommendation given by 15th FC? How 14th FC recommendations are different in terms of, let's say, vertical devolution formula and horizontal devolution formula compared to 15th FC. For example, in 15th FC, highest weightage has been given for income distance, that is 45%. Whereas if you look at the 14th FC, highest weightage was given to the same income distance, but the weightage was 50%. 14th FC gave weightage to both the 2011 population as well as 1971 population. 15th FC has given weightage only to 2011 population, right, etc., like this. Please go through all of them. Questions have been asked and they will continue to ask questions on those. Done? So after that, we were discussing questions. Descriptive questions are left out. Today we will take it up. Don't worry. Let me continue. The next chapter that I'll be discussing will be financial market. We'll connect it to current affairs today. I hope you've heard of Adani's issue, right? Adani group of companies issue. We'll connect it to current affairs. Please be very, very careful. Now, what I'll be discussing under the financial market. Let me start with the structure of the financial market. Then we'll take up external commercial borrowing. Then the concept of credit rating, mutual funds, then exchange traded funds, concept of a P note, types of bonds, and finally, as usual, the questions related to the chapter. Now, let me start. Here is a financial market. Financial market is divided into two parts, capital market and money market. Now, before looking at what is capital market and what is money market, what is a financial market? What do you mean by a financial market? Financial market in simple refers to a market where instruments are traded. Remember the definition? It's very, very simple. Do not complicate, right? Don't worry. This is the most simplest one. Remember this. What is a financial market? Financial market is a market where instruments are traded. Traded in simple terms could be bought and sold, issued and purchased. For example, right, let's say this is one instrument. Okay, this is one instrument. Now, this instrument is issued in the market. You will purchase it, you will sell it to someone else, etc., or you will purchase it from someone else, etc. Now, this instrument could be anything. It could be, let's say, G security. It could be state development loan. It could be treasury bill. It could be dated security. It could be a corporate bond. It could be share by a company, etc., etc., etc. Is the logic okay here? Right? Is the logic okay? Please do let me know. What is the basic idea of a financial market? It's a market where instruments are traded. Simple. Right? And what is the meaning of an instrument here? Instrument represents a transaction between two parties. I hope you understand. The instrument here represents a transaction between two parties. For example, imagine you are the government of India. I'm a common man, Aam Aadmi, Mango Man. So you have issued a bond. I will purchase a bond. Is this the bond? Of course, yes. Imagine this is a bond. Now, what does the bond represent in simple terms? What does the bond represent? The bond simply represents a fact that I have given 100 rupees to the government and government of India has borrowed 100 rupees from me. It could be for 91 days, right, in case of treasury bills. It could be, let's say, 3 years in case of a dated security. So instruments represent the fact that there is a transaction that is taking place between two parties. That's the simplest meaning of the term instrument. Now the financial market is divided into two parts here. Have a look at this: capital market and money market. Now let me give you a basic of capital and money market here. Follow this very carefully. Imagine here is a company. Let me start with the basics here. Understand the basics, then the concept will be very clear. Here is a company. Company will require money to purchase raw materials, right, on day-to-day basis, or let's say on weekly basis. The company requires money to purchase raw materials. The company requires money to pay wages to the employees, etc. And on the other hand, the company will also require money to purchase machinery. Understand the difference? To purchase machinery, the company also requires money to purchase, let's say, another company. Now, what is the difference between both the sides? Why am I writing some of them on this side and some of them on the other side? The difference is very simple. This expenditure that is incurred by the government, by the company on day-to-day basis for taking care of day-to-day activities, this is basically referred to as working capital. Any difficulty? Please do let me know. I'll repeat it again. The expenditure that is incurred by the company for taking care of day-to-day activities, it is called as working capital. The money is referred as working capital. Whereas this amount that will be spent, here also company is spending, there also company is spending. But the difference is, when the company will purchase a machinery, a company will purchase, let's say, another company. This is not day-to-day activity of the company. This is asset creation. Asset creation. And is it okay if I say that compared to the working capital, compared to the other side, that is working capital, for asset creation, expenditure is not incurred on day-to-day basis. It could be incurred on a renewal basis, that is, let's say, after 5 years, after 10 years, after 15 years, etc. Is it okay? So on one side, the expenditure will be incurred for day-to-day purposes, and on the other side, expenditure is incurred, right, after certain number of years, right? Let's say after 7 years, after 10 years, after 15 years. Now this is a very important difference. Why? Whenever company wants money for taking care of working capital, they will approach money market. I repeat, whenever the company wants money for taking care of working capital purposes, working capital again means what? Day-to-day expenditures, day-to-day activities, that is called as money market. Whereas if the company wants to borrow for a longer duration, right, let's say for 7 years, for 10 years, for 20 years, etc., they will approach a market which is called as a capital market, right? That is a concept of money and capital. Now, is it okay if I put the same thing in another way? That is, in the money market, the instruments which are there are short term in nature. I'll repeat the statement here. In the money market, the instruments which are there are short term in nature. And whenever you use the term short term, what is the meaning of it? Generally having a maturity period of up to 1 year. I'll repeat it. Whenever you use the short term in this context, what does it mean? Whenever the instruments are having a maturity period of up to 1 year, these are called as a short term instrument. Sir, any example? We will have a look at certain very important examples. Just give me some time. But because you have already studied, let me know if I'm right or wrong. Repo is a very important example under the money market. Repo rate is the best example of an instrument under the money market. Right? Don't you remember repo? Banking sector. Last week we have discussed. Repo rate is basically an instrument where one institute will borrow from another institute for what duration? Very short duration. So one example you already know. So just understand. Many more examples we'll have a look at in some time. Second, capital market. In the concept of capital market, the instruments which are there, either they are of a medium term or a long term. Medium term generally means 3 years. Long term means more than 3 years. For example, let me give a very simple example. Bonds. Whenever you use the term bond, what does it mean? They have a longer maturity period, right? 2 years, 3 years, 10, 20, 30 years, etc. So capital market will handle or will involve instruments with medium or long term, right? The money market will involve or will have instruments which are short term in nature. That's a very, very important difference. Second, already discussed, the money market will be utilized by the companies in order to finance working capital. Finance means what? In order to get money for working capital, the companies will use money market. Whereas in case of capital market, whenever the companies want to invest in an infrastructure project, whenever they want to purchase one more company, they want to expand operations by purchasing more and more machineries, they will approach capital market. Banks are the main participants here. Whereas in case of a capital market, banks are there, but apart from banks, you have insurance companies, you have mutual fund companies, you have pension companies, you have foreign investors. You are there in the capital market, I am there in the capital market. Not much participation. General public, that is individual participation in the money market, is very limited. I'll tell you where we generally get involved. But compared to the money market, individuals, that is you and me, our participation in the capital market is much, much higher. Again, comparatively, compared to money market, you and me can participate more, get involved more in the capital market. So, any example of it? Stock market. All of you heard of stock market? Right? You should have heard of it. At least in the last two or let's say 1.5 months, you should have heard of the stock market. Today we'll understand, don't worry. So participation of individuals or common public, it is much higher in the capital market compared to money market. Who is the regulator of the money market? Reserve Bank of India. And who is the regulator of the capital market? Securities Exchange Board of India. SEBI. Very often it was there in the newspaper in the last couple of weeks. Please be very careful. SEBI regulates capital market and RBI regulates money market. Now that's a very important difference or distinction between the money market as well as capital market. Now any doubts here? Can I go to the next one? I will enter into the details of money market. Individual tools under the money market. Let's have a look at it and have a discussion on it. Now let's start. Money market instrument. I've already started with the call money market because the first one is repo and reverse repo. What is the basic idea for repo and reverse repo? Under repo, RBI will lend to a bank for short duration. I hope you remember this. And charge a rate of interest. It could be 1 day, it could be 7 days, it could be 14 days, etc. like this. In case of reverse repo, here is RBI. The banks will keep deposits with the Reserve Bank of India and RBI will pay rate of interest on this. That is reverse repo, right? In fact, I hope remember this. Reverse repo has become useless now, non-operational, because instead of reverse repo, right now the banks are using one more tool, that is SDF, Standing Deposit Facility. Important, please remember that. So first one is repo and reverse repo, already discussed. So I will start with directly second, third, fourth and fifth. We'll take up one by one. Please understand the differences. Don't say all are one and the same. there will be differences in each of the tools. There will be differences. There is a difference. That's the only reason why the names are different. Otherwise, if you say, sir, all are one and the same, there is no need to have a different name like that. Okay. Now let me start. Call money market. The concept of call money market. What is this idea of a call money market? Imagine here is a bank. The bank is falling short of funds. The bank is supposed to meet certain requirements, but they are not able to meet that requirement on that day. So what do you mean by the bank is supposed to meet the requirement? I'll give a very simple example. The bank is supposed to meet SLR requirements. Is there a possibility that the bank is supposed to keep 20 crore under SLR, but they do not have 20 crore on that day or at the end of that month? Is that possible? Answer is of course yes. Sir, it is possible. Now in that case, what the bank can do, this bank can borrow from another bank. I hope you understand. I'll number them so that you understand. Bank 1 and Bank 2, B1 and B2. Let's say Bank 2 has more than required deposits. The amount of money that is there with Bank 2 is more than what is actually required for them. So in that case, what the Bank 1 will do is, they'll simply borrow from Bank 2 here. But please understand the next point here. Whenever such borrowing and lending will take place, it is for a very short duration. You'll have to remember this. It is for a very short duration. How short? They can borrow for 1 day. They can borrow for 7 days. They are allowed to borrow for up to 14 days generally. And by nature, I hope you understand, by nature or by default, if you are talking about a money market instrument, it has to be short term. I hope you understand. By default, if you are talking about a money market instrument, it has to be short term only. So what is happening here? One bank requires funds for very short duration. Another bank has more than required funds. So what the first bank will do? They will borrow from the second bank for a very, very short duration. Can I call this as interbank lending? Let me know. Can I refer to this as interbank lending? What do you mean by interbank lending? One bank lending money to another bank. So whenever the interbank lending will take place for a short duration, this is called as a call money. Is it okay? Whenever interbank lending will take place for a very, very short duration, it could be 1 day, it could be 7 days, it could be 14 days. That market where it takes place, that is one bank lends to another bank, these transactions will happen in a market which is called as a call money market. But specifically understand this, there are two terms here, call money and notice money. Call money and notice money. What is this call money? Whenever interbank lending will take place for only 1 day, I'm using the term only 1 day. Instead of 1 day, can I call this as overnight purposes? Is it okay? Instead of saying 1 day, can I call this as overnight purposes? So whenever interbank lending will happen for overnight purposes, this is called as a call money. But if it is more than overnight, more than 1 day, let's say 7 days, 14 days, then this is known as notice money. Any difficulty, please do let me know. All of this is very simple. If you borrow for only 1 day, borrow today, give tomorrow, this is called as a call money. If you borrow for more than 1 day, 7 days, 14 days, then this is called as a notice money. That is point number 2. Third point, when one bank will lend to another bank, is it fair to say the second bank should charge a rate of interest here? Is it okay? Whenever one bank will lend to another bank, term is lending. So is it okay if I say the second bank will charge a rate of interest? Now, because this is call money, that is for a very short duration, the rate of interest that is charged is referred to as call money rate. Right? The rate of interest that is charged is referred to as call money rate. Right? So these are certain very, very important terminologies associated with call money market. Now, some of you are asking, sir, how the call money rate will change? Simple. Based on supply and demand. Based on supply and demand. Now, let me ask you a very simple question. Think of it and answer. Is it okay if I say, if repo rate increases, call money rate will also increase? Is it okay? It's just a basic application of what you have learned so far. If repo rate increases, call money rate also increases, and it should make sense to you. Why? Either you use the term repo rate, right, or call money rate, etc. At the core of all of these concepts, these are nothing but interest rates. Right? I hope you understand all of these. These are very simple. Once you understand, you will never forget them. At the core, at the heart of all of these concepts, one is borrowing, another one is lending, and a rate of interest is charged. Now, if the repo rate starts to increase, which means interest rates in the market are increasing, what do you think will happen to the rate of interest when interbank lending will take place? Right? Basically, right, the rate of interest, that is call money rate, will also increase. So that is generally how the call money rates will keep on fluctuating in the market whenever interest rates in the market will keep on changing. Okay, right? So this is the first tool, that is call money market. Second one is commercial papers. CPs, commercial papers. Now, what is this idea of a commercial paper? Understand this. Here is a company. If the company wants to borrow for a longer duration means simply more than 1 year. Don't say, sir, where is medium term? More than 1 year. Okay. If a company wants to borrow for longer duration, is it okay if I say the company will issue bonds? Done. If the company wants to borrow for a longer duration, they will issue bonds. They can approach banks, they can do all of it. But one way is bonds. But what if the company wants to borrow for shorter duration? Shorter duration, let's say 90 days. And some of you will ask me, sir, why? Why does the company want to borrow for 90 days? Let's say they want to pay to a raw material supplier. They want to pay the right electricity bills. They want to pay the workers' wages. Because understand the process here, I'll just give a very simple example. How the companies will work, understand this once. Imagine here is a company. I'll call this as company 1. And let's say company 1 will supply raw material to company 2. Now, how many of you think that immediately when the raw material will be supplied, company 2 will make payment to company 1? Just think of it. How many of you think that immediately you supply raw material and take the payment? It doesn't happen in the market. It doesn't happen. Trust me, it doesn't happen. I don't say, sir, but I've seen, etc., etc. You might have seen certain incidences. That is not the market practice. Right? What company 2 does is, they will have a concept called as a credit cycle. Credit cycle, meaning what? They will purchase it and they will tell the supplier, I will make the payment after 90 days. I will make the payment after 60 days. I'll make the payment after 120 days. Remember this. There is one more concept called as a trades, which I'll discuss in some time. You will have to remember this concept there as well. Why do they do that? Simple. They are also supplying to some other company or a buyer in a market who will take it on credit. Right? The company 3 has purchased the product of company 2 and company 3 says, I will pay it after 90 days. Right? So that is how the businesses will actually work in real life. Now, come back to this. Here is a commercial paper. Let's say a company is in requirement of working capital, not for asset creation, working capital purposes. So what does the company do? The company has an option of issuing an instrument in the market which is called as commercial papers. Right? So again, remember this. By nature, short term. By default, these are generally short term in nature. 3 months, 6 months, etc. like this. For what reason the companies will issue it? So that they will have sufficient working capital to take care of expenses for a shorter duration. Now what will happen? Right, these commercial papers are the instruments which are issued in the market. The company will borrow and pay a certain rate of interest on it. They are borrowing and they'll pay a certain rate of interest. Right, let's say they will borrow and they will pay 10% rate of interest, 11% rate of interest, or 6% rate of interest. Now please understand this. Sir, is this the only methodology where companies can get working capital? Absolutely no. I hope you understand this. Is this the only way where companies can get or borrow working capital? No. For shorter duration, the working capital loans are also issued by banks. Banks also have loans which are referred to as working capital loans for shorter duration. Now you will ask me, sir, if there is a working capital loan, why will the company opt for commercial papers? Reason is that, I'll give a very simple example. Imagine a bank is giving you a working capital loan, but at 8% rate of interest. You can issue commercial papers in the market and you can offer, let's say, 7.5% rate of interest and borrow the same amount of money. Don't you think by issuing commercial papers, you are borrowing at lower rate of interest? I hope you understand. By issuing commercial papers and borrowing from the market, you are able to reduce the rate of interest. So whenever companies feel like, okay, in the market, I can issue papers, borrow at a lower rate of interest, I can do that. Or else another reason could be you went to a bank, bank says, I've already issued a lot of loans to you. I've already issued a lot of loans. Risk is already very, very high. So I will charge a very higher rate of interest. So there could be multiple situations in which companies will decide to issue commercial papers. But there is one condition here. Please remember this. There is one condition. Any company that wants to issue a commercial paper should have a credit rating. Remember this particular point. Should have credit rating, right? What do you mean by credit rating? We'll understand in some time. They should always have a credit rating. AAA, BBB, right? C, D, etc. What does the term actually mean? We'll understand in some time. Have patience. Next, these are unsecured. These are, right, unsecured. Unsecured means what? There is no security, there is no collateral provided for commercial papers. Right? Who are allowed to invest in this? Have a look at this. Individuals, the banking companies, non-resident Indians, foreign institutional investors, etc. are allowed to invest in the commercial papers. So these are certain very important factors, or let's say the features associated with commercial papers. Any doubt regarding a commercial paper? Let me know. CP is for 3 months up to 1 year. Generally, it will be from 3 months. It could be 6 months. It could be 9 months. But definitely, yes, it is lower than 1 year. It is generally lower than 1 year. Right? Next one. Money market instrument. Where can I buy CP? My dear, please log on to the websites of respective companies. And in fact, whenever companies are issuing commercial papers, they are publishing it. In newspapers, in advertisements, they come out and say, okay, we are issuing commercial papers. Right? For example, I'm pretty sure all of you heard of many companies which are announcing IPO. Today we'll discuss that. Sometime we'll discuss IPO. Right? So how do you understand when IPO is being conducted? There is an advertisement. Can I quote a current affairs example? Adani Group of Companies. I hope you understand. Adani Group of Companies, right? Don't you think very recently Adani Group of Companies came out, advertised a lot and said, we are conducting FPO. Right? So advertisements are conducted, right? The specific platforms are developed for that. You can use the platform and purchase. Then you can go to BSE, shares I'm talking about, trade the shares, etc., etc. Difference between CP and loans, right? The concept of CP is a specific type of a borrowing. CP is one instrument which you can use to borrow for very, very short duration. But loan could be either short term or long term. Okay. Money market instrument, one more tool here, certificate of deposit. I'll start using the short form of this, CD. Certificate deposit, I'll use a short form, CD. Now, what is a certificate of deposit? These are generally issued by financial institutions. Understand the difference. Don't say CP and CD are one and the same. Absolutely no. The financial institutions are allowed to issue certificates of deposits. That is CD. And again, why? Sir, why are the financial institutions issuing CDs? They also require money for shorter duration. Right? They don't want to borrow for longer duration. They want to raise money for shorter duration. So for shorter duration, whenever the financial institutions want to raise money in the market, they are allowed to issue the certificates of deposits. What kind of institutions am I talking about here? It could be a small finance bank. It could be a regional rural bank. It could be a scheduled commercial banks, etc. Right? So these are types of financial institutions are allowed to issue short-term instruments, borrow from the market. Next, these are transferable or tradable. Now, what do you mean by transferable or tradable? Simple. Imagine you have purchased this particular CD, right? Certificate of deposit. You have purchased this CD here. You can simply sell it to somebody else in the market. That is the meaning of the term transferable or tradable. Is it okay? Right? What do you mean by transferable or tradable? You have purchased it, you can sell it to somebody else in the market, get the money from them. Right? That is a basic idea for transferability. Now, understand this. The minimum amount of investment that you are allowed to do or that you are supposed to do to purchase a certificate of deposit is a 5 lakh rupees. Many of the books are quoting 1 lakh rupees. That is the reason specifically I have written this here. Reserve Bank of India has actually increased it to 5 lakh rupees. So make a note of this, suddenly can be asked by UPSC. Some of you will be wondering, sir, I've never come across this number, but then UPSC has asked. Why? Because earlier it was 1 lakh, now it has been increased to 5 lakh rupees. These have been increased to 5 lakh rupees. So these are some of the very, very important features associated with certificates of deposits. So one, we have discussed repo. Second, reverse repo. Third one, right, the call money market. Fourth one, the commercial papers. Fifth one is a certificate of deposit. And sixth one, a commercial bill. The sixth one is a commercial bill. Important, understand this carefully. What is a commercial bill? Let's start with an example here. Imagine here are two, right, traders in the sense, here is a seller and here is a buyer. Okay, buyer and a seller. And again, when I say buyer and seller, don't imagine you with a, right, let's say shop. Imagine one company with another company. Okay, one company is selling something, another company is purchasing from the first company. Now, I told you already, whenever seller will sell certain, let's say, product to a buyer here, company 1, company 2, if you want to understand it much more easily, company 1 and company 2. So company 2 immediately will not make the payment, right? But how do we understand that, or how does the C1 know that company is supposed to make certain payment to me, right? There should be certain proof, there should be certain document. In such cases, the company 2 will issue an instrument. Company 2 will issue an instrument to company 1, which is called as a commercial bill. Is it okay? Company 2 will issue an instrument which is called as a commercial bill. Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. Simple concept. Company 1 will sell certain product, let's say raw material, to company 2. Company 2 in return will issue a document which is basically referred to as a commercial bill. Now, what is the use of a commercial bill? If you look at the commercial bill, they will simply have written certain information on it. What is the information? Look at this carefully. The commercial bill will simply say that C2 on so and so date will pay, let's say, 5 lakh rupees, right, to the holder of this commercial paper. I'm sorry, commercial bill, not commercial paper. My mistake. I'll repeat it again. C2, that is company 2, owes 5 lakh rupees to the holder. Holder means owner of this particular commercial bill on so and so date. I'm using the term holder here, but technically rather than holder, they will use the term bearer. They will use the term bearer. Now please be very careful here. Some of you will get confused with the term bearer and start entering into panic mode. Bearer means anybody who is holding the instrument is referred to as a bearer. Anybody who has the instrument today is referred to as a bearer. Now I'll give you a very simple example. I'm pretty sure you would have come across it without observing it. Have you seen the check very, very carefully? The check leaves, right? The check leaves are generally, rectangular like this, right? And generally in the first line, they will write I, bar bearer. I bar bearer, right? Why is it written? The actual concept is that if you want to use the check for yourself, you are supposed to cut the term bearer and you are supposed to write your name. Right, I'm explaining this because most of you, I'm pretty sure, most of you are using Paytm, Airtel, that thing, this thing, Google Pay, Phone Pay, transfer funds left, right, center from this side to that side. Most of you, I'm pretty sure, or let's say at least some of you, some of you will take it as an offense. So at least some of you would have never seen a check leaf or observed a check leaf correctly. Check leaves are generally written like this: I bar bearer. Whenever you are the owner of a checkbook, you want to use it, you will have to cut the term bearer. And imagine you are issuing a check to me. Imagine, I don't want your check, don't worry. Imagine you are issuing a check to me, then you are supposed to cut the term I, you will keep the bearer correctly like this, and you will write the name XYZ. That is the name of the person to whom you are issuing the check. Right, so that is a basic idea. Bearer means what? The one who is holding the instrument. Now have a look at the commercial bill. Is the term bearer okay with you? Look at the concept of a commercial bill. On this commercial bill, it is written that the bearer of the commercial bill will receive, let's say 2 lakh rupees or let's say 5 lakh rupees on so and so date. Now what is the use of this commercial bill? Imagine you are company 2, I am company 1. I will sell products to you. You will say, sir, after 90 days, and let's assume hypothetically, after 90 days, it is 1st April. Is it okay? I know, right? Don't say, sir, but from today, 1st April is only so many days away. Don't worry. Imagine 90 days is 1st April. So what you have done? You have issued a commercial bill to me saying that on the 1st of April, anybody who will come to you with this commercial bill, you will pay the person 5 lakh rupees. This is called as a commercial bill. Any difficulty in understanding the concept? Why this language is written, I'll tell you in a minute. Now, what is the use of it? It will basically facilitate trade between you and me. If you basically understand this, if you basically don't issue a commercial bill, then on 1st of April, you will say something else. You will say it was 2 lakh rupees. How do I prove how much was it? You will simply say, I've never purchased raw material from you. How do I prove it then? That is one point. Second point is, it will promote trade between you and me, because you want to purchase raw material on credit. If I don't give it on credit, you will purchase it from someone else. So that is the reason commercial bills are very, very famous, generally used in the trading companies. Now have a look at this. Next point. What is the use of a commercial bill once you have issued it to me? You have issued this commercial bill to me, and the commercial bill says, on 1st of April, if I bring this commercial bill to you, I'll give it to you, you will give me 5 lakh rupees. So what if somewhere in the month of March, I need money? I hope you understand now, What if in the month of March, I require money, So in that case, I'll come to you and I'll show the commercial bill. I'll say, please take your bill and give me 5 lakh rupees. But you will tell me, sir, look at the commercial bill. I've clearly told on the 1st of April, I will pay it. Which means in case of need of money, I cannot give the commercial bill back to you. You will not accept it. But can I sell it to somebody else in the market? I hope you understand. Can I sell this commercial bill to somebody else in the market? I will sell it to, let's say, another buyer in the market. He will give me the money, and on the 1st of April, that person will come to you, give the commercial bill to you, collect money from you. Is the process okay here? Is the process okay? It's very simple process. I will take the commercial bill, I will sell it to somebody else in the market, they will give the money to me, and on the 1st of April, they will come to you, they will show the commercial bill to you, you will take it and give the money, basically to the person. Now, that is the beauty of the commercial bill. Some of you will be wondering, sir, why are we writing bearer? The term bearer in the commercial bill, why don't I write simply your name? Some of you must have wondered it, right? Why should I write the term bearer? I can simply write your name. That is, you will tell that to person, let's say Sham, you owe 5 lakh rupees, you will pay 5 lakh rupees on 1st of April. That is, my name is written in the commercial bill. Now, can I sell it to somebody else? I hope you understand. Can I sell it to somebody else? If I sell it to somebody else, why will they purchase it? Because on the 1st of April, you will not give them money. You will give money to me. Right? That is the precise reason. Generally, the term bearer is written in this. Right? The terms bearer are written. Done? So, commercial bill. Now, what is the current affairs connection here? What is the current affairs connection here? Follow this very carefully. There is something called as a TREADS. Very, very famous now. Very often cited in the newspaper as well. What is this TREADS? Trade Receivable E-discounting system. E-discounting system. TREADS. This TREADS system has been set up by Reserve Bank of India. Okay, now have a look at this very carefully. What is this trade receivable e-discounting system? Have a look at it. Right, let me start with the basics here. Here is company 1 and here is company 2. Both are registered on the platform. Simple. Both are registered on the platform. That is, there is a website which is created. There are many companies. For example, there is a company called as Invoice Mart. So, argument is both the buyer and the seller are registered on the TREADS platform. Point number 1. Second point, company 1 will sell raw materials, and company 2 will generate an bill or invoice. Company 2 will generate a bill or an invoice. And what is the use of this invoice? Please understand this. This invoice is generated online. That is, in the system itself, the invoice is generated. Now, next, third point. As per the invoice, company 2 is supposed to make a payment of, let's say, 5 lakh rupees to company 1 on the 1st of April. On the 1st of April. But let's say in the month of March itself, company 1 requires money. So what the company 1 will do? Within the TREADS platform, there is a third party. There is one more set of institution which are referred to as financiers. Who will act as a financier? Best example, non-banking financial company, NBFC. Follow this. NBFCs are also present in the TREADS platform. They act as financiers. Now, what will happen? Follow the sequence here. 1st of April, C2 will make a payment. But let's say on the 1st of March, company 1 requires money. So what the company 1 will do? They will sell the bill. That is, the invoice will be sold to a financier, and the financier will pay money to company 1. But please be very careful. Some of you are asking, sir, what about interest? What about the payment, etc., etc. This financier is not going to provide these services free of a cost. They will impose and collect a certain amount of charges. They will impose and collect a certain amount of charges from whom? Company 1. Now on the 1st of March, they have purchased the invoice. They will wait for next 30 days. On the 1st of April, they will submit the invoice to the company 2, and company 2 will pay, let's say, 5 lakh rupees to NBFC. That is a financier. Is the process okay? Let me know. Is the process okay with you? Company 1 will sell the raw material. Company 2 will generate an invoice, online digital invoice in the TREDS platform itself, and say that the company 2 will make a payment on the 1st of April. Now company 1 requires money, right? Company 1 requires money, right, on the 1st of March. So what they will do? They will basically go to a financier, sell the bill, sell the invoice, collect the money, pay certain charges to a financier, and now the financier will wait for next 30 days, approach C2 on the 1st of April, collect the money from C2. This is how the TREDS platform will work. And financiers, majorly the financiers which are present in the TREDS platform right now are NBFCs, non-banking financial companies. Are financiers or factors the same? Financier is a very bigger term. Under that, those provide factoring services are also covered. Now again, others, don't worry. Others, please don't worry, right? I'm pretty sure the people who are asking questions on these, sir, what is a factor? What is this? They already have a commerce background to this. Others, don't worry. For civil service examination, GS paper 3, you do not have to be worried about, right, what rate of interest is charged, how it is calculated, etc, etc, etc. Please don't worry. Okay, right? So that is basically the concept of TREDS system has been set up by Reserve Bank of India. It has been set up by Reserve Bank of India. Done? Any doubts regarding this? What is the advantage of the TREDS platform? Simple. The advantage is that, imagine this is a very, very small enterprise. This is a very, very small enterprise, micro enterprise. Now, don't you think micro enterprises, if the C2 takes a longer period of time to make a payment, lot of pressure on finances will be there on the micro enterprise? Is it okay? Right? The micro enterprise means what? Very, very small company. If the company which is purchasing raw material will say, I want a cycle of 90 days. I want a cycle of 120 days, which in fact has happened. I hope you understand, during pandemic, the credit cycle between the companies has expanded. And when the credit cycle period expands like this, there will be a lot of pressure on the sellers in the market. Because they have sold, they are waiting for next 120 days to receive a payment. They are waiting for 90 days to receive a payment. What about monthly payments of wages or salaries or electricity bills, etc., etc. Right? So there is a lot of pressure on these particular sellers, especially micro enterprises. In order to address this itself, the government of India has asked RBI to set up a TREDS platform and function or basically promote the utilization of TREDS platform. Done? Okay, so this is the basic idea. Right, so please remember, this can be asked in UPSC preliminary examination or even the mains examination. Now some of you are asking, sir, how do I use it in the mains? My dear, what if the question reads like this? Discuss the important initiatives taken by the government / RBI to ease the pressure on the MSME sector, to address the financial concerns in the MSME sector. Right? Is it okay? This is one of the reforms. Is the logic okay? Let me know. Is this okay? Can you use this in the mains examination? Of course, the answer is yes. Right? So all you need to do is remember these concepts and write them wherever they are applicable like this. What's the discounting part? Don't worry. Whenever this money is collected, right, rather than imposing charges and collecting it extra, they will simply discount the value and retain it. Right? All those technical aspects, you don't have to be worried. Okay? Now, this is the discussion related to the money market instruments. Any difficulty, please do let me know in the money market instrument. We have covered repo and reverse repo, call money, commercial paper, certificate deposit, and commercial bills. Any difficulty in any of these right instruments, please do let me know. If there is no difficulty, now I'll jump like a monkey from money market to capital market. Right? Difference between CP and CD, my dear. Right? While discussing itself, I told you, don't keep on asking, sir, both are one and the same, etc., etc. Please go through what are the features, you will automatically understand. Right? Sir, CD and CP both are one and the same. How? You tell me, how both are one and the same? Have I not given the features for both of them? Who issues them? What is the minimum amount of investment? Right, etc., etc. Please have a look at it. Okay. Let me start with capital market. Let me start with capital market then. Now the capital market is divided into two parts. One is the debt market, another one is equity market. Right, one is a debt market, another one is equity market. Now what is the basic difference between debt and equity? Let me explain it. What's the basic difference between debt and equity? Have a look at this. Whenever you use the term debt market, it simply means company is issuing the instruments and is borrowing from the market. Is it okay? Let me know. What do you mean by debt market? Debt means what? Again, liability. Apply the same logic that you have learned, right, for the last 2 weeks. Right? What is this idea of a debt market? Company is issuing the instrument, borrowing from the market. It is borrowing, which means there is a component of repayment associated with instruments. Company is borrowing, company has to repay. Simple. Whereas whenever you talk about equity market, company is selling instruments which are referred to as shares. What is a share? You will understand in some time. Please have patience. I'll repeat it again. Whenever you say a debt market, company is borrowing from the market. And whenever you use the term equity market, company is selling the shares. And understand the logic here. Whenever the investors purchase shares, they basically are owning part of the company, not the complete company. They're owning part of the company. So what do you mean by part of the company? Let me take a very simple example. Imagine here is a company XYZ, and this company will issue, I'll take a simple number, let's say 1,000 shares in the market. Right? The company has issued how many? 1,000 shares in the market. And let's say you will purchase 50 of these shares. You'll purchase how many? 50 of these shares. Now, if you have purchased 50 of these shares, I will refer to you as 5% stakeholder in a company. Have you come across the term stakeholder in very, very recent times? You should have come across. If you say, sir, no, I have never heard the term stakeholder, then you have not read newspapers. Simple. Sir, in what context are you talking about? Adani Group of companies. Adani Group of companies. If you look at the ownership of Adani Group of companies, more than 70% of the stake means percentage ownership. I hope you understand percentage ownership. More than 70% of the stake or ownership is there with Mr. Gautam Adani. Again, not literally only Gautam Adani, relatives of Gautam Adani. And again, please don't say, sir, that, sorry, you're targeting one company. My dear, it is same for most of the companies. Even if you look at the ownership of Adani Group of companies, Ambani Group of companies, right? Mr. Ambani, or that is Mukesh Ambani, along with his relatives, you will realize that most of the ownership is there with, right, the family of Ambani itself. And that there is a reason for it, you will understand in some time. So argument is simple here. Whenever you talk about the debt, company issues instruments, borrows from the market and repays it. Simple. Whenever you talk about equity, company is not borrowing. Company is not borrowing under equity. Company is selling shares in the market, collecting money. And is it okay if I say that? If a company collects shares, there is no repayment liability on this. Have a look at this. There is no repayment liability. What do you mean by repayment liability? If a company is selling the shares and collecting money, company is not borrowing money. Simple. Company is not coming under debt because of issuance of shares. I hope you are connecting to current affairs. It becomes very easy for you if you connect it to current affairs. For example, the Adani group of companies, if they issue bonds in the market and borrow from the market, the liability or the borrowings of Adani group of companies would be very high. But understand this, the reason why they were in news or why the group of companies was in news was not because of debt or not because of loans. It was because of shares. If the company is selling the shares, it's not borrowing money. It is simply selling away ownership like this, percentage of ownership, and collecting money from the market. There is no liability on the company. Is the difference clear with you people? Please do let me know. Debt and equity. And because so many things are taking place in the market, UPSC can ask you a question on this. In case of debt, bonds, best example, bonds. Companies borrow. In case of equity, company doesn't borrow. Company simply says, I'm issuing shares, I will take money from you. Now, some of you will be worried, sir, what is the advantage of purchasing a share? I'll come to that. Have patience. Okay, have patience. I'll come to that as well. So, the capital market is divided into two parts, the debt market and equity market. Now, the debt market, right, what are the types of instruments in the debt market? And I'll discuss a lot of current affairs here. Please be very careful. The examples of instruments in the debt market are bonds, which are convertible, non-convertible, masala bonds, zero coupon bonds, right, etc., etc., etc. Lot of bonds are there in the market, right? Is it okay? Do you remember additional tier 1 bond? Right, let me know. I will come to know whether you are revising or not. Additional tier 1 bond. There is tier 2 bond. There is one more, sovereign gold bond. I have not discussed sovereign gold bond. I know that. Right, we'll discuss this today. Don't worry. Sovereign gold bond. Right, so understand this. Lot of types of bonds are there. But at the core of it, whatever names they're using, don't worry. At the core of it, is it okay if I say sovereign gold bond, or for that matter any bond, represents what? There are two parties. One party is lending, another party is borrowing. I hope you understand this. Talk about any bond for that matter, right? You can talk about zero coupon bond, convertible, non-convertible, which we'll discuss in some time. Additional tier 1, tier 2, sovereign gold, right, or masala bonds, which we'll discuss today. At the core or at the heart of the concept is simple. There are two parties in the transaction. One is giving money, another one is borrowing money. That's it. The uses will be different. What context is there? It will be different. We'll understand it now. Let's start. Convertible bonds. Now, what do you mean by convertible bonds? Simple. Right? Imagine this. This is a bond. I will issue the bond to you and I'll take money from you. But let's say after 2 years, there is an option. You can convert this bond into share. What is a share? I have not discussed. We'll go to share also. Don't worry. But is the logic okay with you? It is a bond. I've issued the bond to you. But there is a feature which is available to you. You will have to exercise it. That is, it's your choice. It's your discretion. I'm saying after 2 years, you have a choice to convert this bond into share. Can I call this bond as convertible bond? Let me know. Can I call this as a convertible bond? Convertible means what? Basically from, right, the bond from an instrument which is a bond, you have a choice to convert it into another instrument such as share. That is called as a convertible bond. Second, non-convertible. Simple. I will issue the bond to you. Bond has a maturity period of 5 years. You cannot convert it. You will purchase it and maturity period will be over. That is, once issued as a bond, you do not have any option to convert it. it will remain as bond till maturity. These are called as non-convertible bonds. Any difficulty? Right? These are very, very simple concepts. Do not complicate all of them. Right? Convertible means you can convert into another form of instrument. Non-convertible means you are not allowed to convert it. You will purchase a bond and will remain bond till maturity. Sir, any example of a non-convertible? Government bonds. Simple. Government bonds. Right? If you purchase, let's say, 20-year government bond, 10-year government bond, or let's say 40-year government bond, they will remain as bond till maturity. You cannot convert them. Sir, any example of a convertible bond? Right? Yes, there are examples. Generally, in Indian context, understand this carefully. Generally, in case of Indian context, Indian companies in the past have issued bonds which are referred to as foreign currency convertible bonds. Look at the statement that I'm using here. In case of Indian context, the companies in India have been allowed to issue certain bonds which are famously known as foreign currency convertible bonds. FCCB. Is it okay? I'll use the short form now. FCCB. Right? What is an FCCB? Foreign currency convertible bond. Now look at the name itself. Right? These are convertible bonds, which means the companies in India have issued it to, let's say, an investor in USA. And by the way, before you ask me, sir, can companies in India issue bonds outside India? It is allowed. Just like American companies are allowed to issue bonds outside America. Is the logic okay? Right? We'll go step by step. Right? You don't be worried. Follow the basics. You will be able to answer the questions. Companies in India are allowed to issue bonds, just like government of India. Are the companies allowed to issue bonds even outside India? Answer is yes. They are allowed. We'll come to a very, very famous type of a foreign bond or bond issued in a foreign market, basic of masala bond. We'll arrive at that. Don't worry. So there was a bond which was issued, right, by the name of foreign currency convertible bonds. And by default, when they say foreign currency convertible bonds, what are these bonds? You will invest, purchase the bond, but after certain number of years, you can convert these bonds into shares of the company. Right? So one is convertible, second one is non-convertible. Can I go to the next one? Zero coupon bond. Third one is important, slightly technical, zero coupon bond. Now, what is a zero coupon bond? Let me start. Understand this carefully. Slightly technical. Some of you will get confused. Understand it very carefully. First and foremost, what do you mean by the term coupon in the context of a bond? Right? Start from the basics. What do you mean by coupon? Coupon is nothing but interest rate. All of you remember this? Coupon is nothing but interest rate. Now, is it okay if I say coupon is calculated on the face value of the bond? I repeat, coupon is calculated on the face value of the bond. Right? Let me see if I've given, no. On the face value of the bond. What do you mean by face value? Let's start. Imagine this is a bond, and on the bond, the value is written 100 rupees. The value of the bond, what is written on the bond? 100 rupees. And if I say coupon rate of 8%, what is the calculation? Every year, you will get 8% of 100 rupees. That is, every year you will get 8 rupees. Point number one. Second point, what if, have a look at this very carefully. What if the face value of the bond is 100? I will issue to you not at 100. Rather than 100, I will issue the bond to you at 90 rupees. Understand this carefully. Right? What is the face value of the bond? 100 rupees. So traditionally what would happen? I will issue to you, I will collect 100 and I'll simply say annually I'll give you 8%. That is what generally happens in traditional sense. But in zero coupon, look at the term zero coupon. And what is coupon? Interest rate. Zero coupon bonds are those instruments, debt instruments, which do not have any coupon rate, which has a zero coupon rate. Now, some of you will be concerned, sir, how is that possible? If I purchase a bond and if the bond is giving me zero coupon, why will I purchase it? That is the beauty of the bond. Have a look at this. The face value of the bond is 100. I will not issue this at 100 rupees. I will issue the bond to you. I will sell the bond to you at a price below 100. Let's say 90 rupees. Now, can I call this 90 rupees as discounted price? Let me know. Step 1. Can I call this 90 rupees as discounted price? That is, the value of the bond is 100. I'm not selling it at 100. I'm rather selling it at 90, discounted price. And after the maturity period is over, I will not give you interest. I will give you the face value of the bond. What is the face value of the bond? 100 rupee is the face value. So after the maturity period is over, I will collect the bond from you. I will give you 100 rupees. Is the logic okay? Right, let me know. Is the logic okay? And because, understand the next point here, because coupon is calculated on face value, right? Understand now. Coupon is calculated on face value. Did I give you anything above and over face value? Face value was 100. I paid 100 rupees. Did I calculate anything on the face value? Absolutely no. I have paid the face value to you. So is there any coupon rate here? Is there any coupon rate in this context? There is no coupon rate. Hence, this is called as a zero coupon bond. Is it okay? Right? Don't say I'm incurring a loss. Please don't be under that impression. You're not incurring losses. It's basically an accounting mechanism. Rather than issuing it at 100, calculating coupon upon 100, in this case, what has happened? Value is 100. I will issue it at lower than 100, discounted price, and upon maturity, I will pay you the face value. And because the coupon is calculated on face value, and there is no calculation of coupon on the face value here, I'll call this as zero coupon bond. Right? This is referred to as zero coupon bond. Any difficulty in understanding this? Any difficulty, please do let me know. It's a basic, right, technicality. That's it. Right? Do not be under the impression that you are losing money. No. Your investment is 90 rupees. You are getting 100 rupees. You are earning. Only thing is that rather than calculating coupon on 100, the issuer will issue it at a lower price, give you face value. Right? That is the reason these are called as zero coupon bonds. Who is allowed to issue zero coupon bonds? Companies. Companies are allowed to issue zero coupon. Right? Now understand this. Is government allowed to issue zero coupon instruments? I'm not using the term bond here. Zero coupon instrument. I hope you understand the difference between bond and instrument. Instrument could be anything. Is it okay? Instrument could be anything. Commercial paper, it's an instrument. Right? Bond is a specific type of instrument within, right, the broader term that is instrument. Who is allowed to issue zero coupon instruments? Companies are allowed to issue zero coupon instruments. Government is allowed to issue zero coupon instrument. For example, remember this. The treasury bills are zero coupon instruments. I hope you understand this. Treasury bills are zero coupon instruments, and many of the times money market instruments are zero coupon. Commercial paper, right? Certificates of deposit. Generally, these are zero coupon instruments. Now, what is this treasury bill? These are the types of government securities which are issued for short term. Is it okay? Right? These are issued for short term. So remember this. This was in fact asked in UPSC prelims once. So the treasury bills are zero coupon instruments, right? What do you mean by zero coupon instruments? The actual price of the treasury bill is, let's say, right, 100 rupees, actual price. They will not issue it at 100. Let's say they will issue it at 95 rupees. Upon maturity, they will give you 100 rupees. So your earning is a 5 rupee divided by 95 rupee. Right? So these are certain important points regarding the concept of zero coupon bonds. Any difficulty regarding this? Please do let me know. Any difficulty regarding this? Sir, why will anybody invest in zero coupon instruments? Very simple, my dear. Imagine you are a type of an investor who wants guaranteed returns, fixed amount of returns after a certain period. Let me know. You are a type of an investor. You don't want to be worried about market volatility. You are not very greedy. You want 100 rupees after 1 year. Is it okay if I say zero coupon bond is for you then? Is it okay? Right? Let me know if you disagree. Right? A zero coupon bond or a zero coupon instrument are those kinds of instruments wherein you know after the maturity period how much money you are going to get. Right? Imagine you are planning for a trip after, let's say, 5 years, and that trip will cost you, let's say, 6 lakh rupees. 6 lakh rupees. Don't you think these kinds of instruments are for you then? Where basically you know how much money you are going to get after maturity period is over. Right? So there are types of investors in the market who prefer fixed, that is guaranteed certain amount of money. And zero coupon instruments are offering that to you. That is the reason zero coupon instruments are also very well known in the market. Okay, done? Right, so this is another concept called as a zero coupon bond. Can I go to the next one? Any difficulty? Treasury bills can only be issued by the government. Didn't we discuss this? Didn't we discuss this under concept of Reserve Bank of India? Yes, my dear, we have discussed all of this. It's basically you're jumping 3 steps ahead, jumping 2 steps back. 3 steps ahead, two steps back. Right? Please revise. Please revise. Okay. T-bill is a money market instrument. Yes, it's a short term. So obviously it will fall under the money market instrument. Where zero coupons are available, my dear, right? The treasury bills are available. RBI sells it on the website. You can purchase them. Okay. Can I go to the next one? Next one is concept of indexed bonds. Idea of a indexed bond. Now, what do you mean by indexation here? Simple. Index means link. Understand the statement very carefully. Indexing means you are linking to something. There is a parameter, you are connecting it to something. Right? That is called as indexation. Now, what do you mean by indexed bonds? Right? Let me show you a very simple example. Imagine, right, there is a company which is issuing, even government is allowed to issue this. Companies generally don't prefer, government has done it actually. Imagine, right, there is let's say government. The government is selling a bond to you. And government says, I will give you a coupon rate of 10% annually. Okay, right, I'll give you a coupon rate of 10% annually. Now understand this carefully. Your contention is that, your argument is that, sir, you might give me 10% annually, but don't you think there will be inflation rate from today to next year? I hope you understand this. Right, from today to next 1 year, there will be inflation in the market. You are saying you will give me 10%, but what about the inflation rate then? If I'm going to earn 10 rupees, the purchasing power of that 10 rupee would be much lower because there is an inflation rate in the market. Any difficulty in understanding the argument here? In that context, let's say the government says, what I will do is, whatever coupon I'm going to pay, I'll connect it to inflation rate. I will adjust, connect means I'll adjust the coupon rate with inflation rate. Right? These kinds of bonds are referred to as inflation indexed bonds. These are referred to as inflation indexed bonds. How the indexation will happen? Have a look at this. Imagine government will issue a bond worth 100 rupees to you in the year 2020. In 2021, they are supposed to pay how much coupon rate? They are supposed to pay simply 10 rupees coupon rate to you. And please do not by heart the calculation. UPSC will not ask you the calculation here. So after 1 year, you are supposed to receive how much? 10 rupees, right, coupon amount. But during the same period of time, there is also an inflation of 6%. So you will tell the government, no, right? You said you will index my returns to inflation. Please adjust with inflation. So if there is no inflation adjustment, you would simply get 10 rupee. But because there is inflation in the market, your returns will be increased by 6%. Simple. The prices have increased by 6%. Your returns will also be increased by 6%. So rather than simply getting 10 rupee, you will be able to get now how much? 10 rupee 60 paisa. Second year, right? Again there is a inflation. How much? Inflation rate is 10%. Now what they will do? Rather than giving you simply 10 rupees, they will index the returns by 10%, increase it by 10% and give you 11 rupees. So is the logic okay here? Is the logic okay? As the inflation will take place in the economy from 1 year to next year, your principal automatically will get adjusted. And when your principal gets adjusted, your coupon rate will also get adjusted automatically. These kinds of bonds are called as inflation indexed bonds. Is it okay? Right? These kinds of bonds are referred to as inflation indexed bonds. Right? What is the meaning of inflation indexed bonds? Your principal amount or your coupon amount, or in simple terms, the returns that you are getting will be connected to the inflation rate. Hence, these are referred to as inflation indexed bonds. Right? So this is a concept of indexed bonds. A simple question to you. Think of it and answer. Just think of it. Here is a normal bond. Normal bond means no inflation indexation. No inflation indexation. And here is a indexed bond. Now simple question to you people, just think of it and answer. Is it okay if I say, if there is an inflation indexed bond, government will be able to issue this bond at lower coupon rate in the market compared to normal bond? I'll repeat it. Right? Just think of this. Here is one normal bond. Here is an inflation indexed bond. I am saying between both of them, right, government will be able to issue the inflation indexed bond at comparatively lower coupon rate and borrow from the market. Have you understood this? Yes or no? Please do let me know. Right? If you are, anybody has a doubt in this? Sir, why is that? Anybody has a doubt? Please do let me know, because I'll go to the next point. These kind of questions were asked in UPSC prelims. That's the reason. You will not find these concepts in books. Trust me on this. You will not get it. Right? Why? These are application part. And again, even if no book gives you, you should not be concerned about these kind of statements. Right? Apply the basic knowledge. Apply basic knowledge. If this statement is given, in fact, it was given in the UPSC, you should say yes. Statement is correct. Why? Here there is uncertainty. Uncertainty of inflation. Simple. What is going to be the inflation? You don't know. Are you not taking a higher risk by investing in a normal bond then, compared to an indexed bond? I'll repeat it. By investing in a normal bond, there is uncertainty regarding how much is your actual real rate of returns. Because do you know what is going to be the inflation in next 1 year? Any idea? Any idea what is going to be the inflation rate in the next 1 year? And don't you think if inflation rate would be higher, your real rate of returns would be very, very low? But in this indexed bond, government says, if the inflation rate goes up, I will adjust your amount. Right? So the safety or the security is higher in case of indexed bonds. And apply the magic, apply the market mantra. Apply the mantra. Higher the risk, higher the returns you should expect. Lower the risk, lower the returns. So between a normal bond and an indexed bond, right, you are taking a higher risk by investing in a normal bond. So if a government issues a normal bond, the coupon rate quoted on this will be higher than the coupon rate quoted on an indexed bond. That's a basic application part. These kind of statements are asked by UPSC. Don't be confused. Don't fall into a panic. Apply the knowledge that you have learned. You will get the answer to this. So this is one more type of a bond. Next one, sovereign gold bond. SGB. SGB. What will happen if the prices will fall down? Generally, understand this. If the inflation is there, they will adjust your amount. If there's a deflation, they will not cut the amount. I hope you understand. Generally, there is a protection. Right? Protection is provided. What do you mean by protection? Sir, I purchased this inflation indexed bond. But right during the period of this inflation indexed bond, when I purchased it, there was a deflation. Does it mean that they will take away my money? Does it mean that they will reduce my principal? Generally, no. That protection is provided. And that protection is always provided. Only if there is inflation, they will increase your amount. If there's a deflation, whatever was the basic amount, they will pay it to you. Okay. Now, next one, sovereign gold bond. SGB, sovereign gold bond. Now, these sovereign gold bonds generally have a maturity period of 8 years. First point, these have a maturity period of 8 years. Point number one. Point number two, these are nothing but the bonds issued by the government of India. Can I call these as dated securities? I hope you understand. Can I call these as dated securities? Of course, yes. Right? Dated securities are nothing but the bonds issued by the government of India. Third point, right? Have a look at this very carefully. Under the sovereign gold bond, government says, rather than purchasing physical gold in the market, you can purchase the bond in the market. That is, let's say, 1 gram of gold. Rather than investing, I'll just take a hypothetical number. Don't worry about the number here. Let's say right now, 1 gram of gold is 4,500 rupees. So government says, rather than purchasing 1 gram of a gold, you simply purchase this sovereign gold bond whose value is 4,500 rupees. That is equivalent to 1 gram of gold. Now that is a basic idea of a sovereign gold bond. Right? So minimum value of the bond that is issued is equal to 1 gram of gold. What is the meaning of it? Whatever is the price of 1 gram of gold on that day, on the day of issue, that will be the price of the sovereign gold bond. So if you want to purchase it, minimum is 1 gram. Maximum, it will vary from one buyer to another buyer. Generally for individuals, up to 2 kgs is allowed. For companies, different. For households, it is different, etc., etc. Now, second very important point. Sir, why should I invest? Now, follow this carefully. Point number one. The government says, when you purchase gold in the market, there is always a concern over purity of the gold. Is it not? I hope you understand. Whenever you purchase, the physical gold means, let's say the bars or gold jewelry, whatever it is, there is always a concern over the purity of the gold. But if you purchase a sovereign gold bond, you are not purchasing gold here. You are purchasing, a piece of paper whose value is connected to gold price. So don't you think, you don't have to be worried about purity of the gold here. Point one. Point number two. Whenever you purchase gold, you keep it in a home, you have gone abroad. Half of the time you are concerned about safety of the gold. What if somebody will break into my home? What somebody will steal it, etc., etc., etc. Government says in case of sovereign gold bond, you don't have to be worried. Right? It's a piece of paper. In fact, understand this. Before somebody, some of you will jump and start asking me, today, we follow a concept called as dematerialization. Because when I say it's a piece of paper, somebody will ask me, I'm pretty sure, as I'm saying, questions have come. Somebody will ask me, sir, what if I lose a piece of paper? In fact, currently in the sense post 1996 in India, we have introduced the concept of dematerialization. What do you mean by dematerialization? Whenever I say bonds, shares, commercial papers, etc., physically these are not issued. Is it okay? Physically these are not issued. Physically means a piece of paper is not issued in the market. Rather, the digital representation of these is actually issued. That is the basic idea for dematerialization. Right? For example, right, if you take a picture, just understand this. You take a picture and you want to transfer it to someone else. Do you literally take a printout of it and give it to somebody else? No, you'll simply attach it in the mail, attach it, right, let's say in the WhatsApp or XYZ and send it. So digital copy of it is transferred. Apply the same logic to instruments. Is it okay? Apply the same logic to instruments. We do not issue physical copies now, right? That concept is gone now. In fact, have you heard of the term demat accounts? Have you come across a concept of demat accounts? In case of India, number of demat accounts have actually increased now. Very, very high number of demat accounts. What is this idea of a demat account? Demat accounts are opened by investors. These are opened by the investors. And whenever they will purchase certain instruments, these are added to their demat account. Whenever you will sell the instruments in the market, these will be taken from your demat account. Is the logic okay? Let me know. Is the concept okay with you? Right? For example, imagine today you purchase, right? You purchase certain shares of Paytm. Please don't do that. And again, that's my advice. Want to take it, right? Take it. I don't have any problem. You purchase shares of, let's say, Paytm, right? Do you think the Paytm company will come to your home? They will hand over the papers to you like this? Absolutely no. Those shares in digital form, digital version of it will be transferred into your demat account. And if you sell, again, the buyer will not come to you. They will not physically take the delivery from you. Absolutely no. From your account, the shares will be deducted and transferred into the demat account of somebody else. Any problem with understanding the concept of demat account? Now, why I'm explaining all of this? Today, please remember this. All the instruments in the market are in the form of dematerialization. None of these instruments are actually printed in physical form. Everything is in a demat form now. Right? So, have a look at this now. You purchase gold, physical gold. Are you not worried about the safety of the gold? But apart from that, if you purchase a sovereign gold bond, is there a concern over physical safety of the sovereign gold bond? Answer is no. Right? Now understand, because of this, Government of India says, why you want to invest? Why you want to invest and purchase physical gold? Don't you think a sovereign gold bond is a much better investment for you? And apart from this, two more very important features. One, whenever you purchase sovereign gold bond, annually you will get 2.5% rate of interest. I'll repeat the statement. Whenever you purchase sovereign gold bond, annually you will purchase a 2.5% rate of interest. You will get 2.5% rate of interest. Now you will ask me, sir, 2.5% of what price? Is the current market price of the gold counted, or the issue price of the sovereign gold bond is counted? Remember this, whatever is the issue price of the sovereign gold bond. Any difficulty in understanding the term issue price here? That is, imagine today you will go to the market, you will purchase 1 gram worth of sovereign gold bond. You have invested, let's say, 4,500. So annually 2.5% of 4,500 will be given to you. That is next very important feature. Next, sir, what if the gold prices will go up? What will happen to the value of the sovereign gold bond? The value of the sovereign gold bond will also go up. Any difficulty, please do let me know. Sir, what if the gold prices will fall down? The value of the sovereign gold bond will also fall down. Is the logic okay? Is the logic okay? And next point, imagine you will keep the sovereign gold bond with you, right, till maturity. At the end of maturity, on that day, I'll take a simple number, let's say 31st January. Which year? Don't worry. 31st January, 8 years is over. So on the 31st January, whatever is the gold price, I repeat, on the 31st January, whatever is the gold price, you will be given the price. You will be given that amount. Government will not give you physical gold. On the maturity date, whatever is the current market price of the gold, that price will be given to you, not the gold. These are the features of sovereign gold bonds. Any issue, please do let me know. Right? Any issue related to this, please do let me know. So from where you can purchase the sovereign gold bond? You can purchase these at various branches of nationalized banks, scheduled private sector bank, foreign banks, and certain post offices which are allowed to sell. Right? These securities, apart from this, another very important feature is these securities are also eligible to be used as collateral. That is, you want to borrow, you can use gold always for collateral purposes. Government says you can even use sovereign gold bond as a collateral. Right? So these are certain very important factors or features associated with the sovereign gold bond. Now why? Why did government introduce it? What is the advantage for all of us? You have learned. But why did Government of India introduce it? Simple. One, by issuing sovereign gold bond, government will be able to collect a certain amount of money from the market. Just like a bond, just like any bond, government is collecting money. Second, the feature of a sovereign gold bond is that investors, rather than purchasing physical gold, if they start investing in the sovereign gold bonds, the demand for physical gold is expected to come down. And this will work for India. This is in favor of India for a simple reason. We import a lot of gold into India. Is it okay? We import a lot of gold into India. Right? That is the reason Government of India has introduced the concept of sovereign gold bond. Any doubts regarding this? Please do let me know. Can we extend the maturity period? No. Right? You cannot extend. It will be decided by the government. Generally, they don't do that. Is it taxable? Very difficult to answer this question. Why? There is a concept of lock-in period here. There is this idea of a lock-in period. And again, long-term capital gains tax, how much is the rate on this? How much is the rate on this? After 5 years, if you sell how much? After 7 years, if you sell how much? Very, very difficult to answer all of that. Generally, after lock-in period, if you trade it, yes, it is taxable. Okay. Second point. Invest in gold rather than, invest in sovereign gold bond rather than physical gold. What is there to explain here? Rather investing in gold, worried about, let's say, safety, worried about security, worried about, let's say, the purity. Now you can simply invest in gold bond. Okay. Can I go to the next one? Can I go to the next bond now? Concept of green bond. From where we can buy. Did we not discuss this? Is it not there in the slide right in front of you? Right? It is there right in front of you and you are asking the same question. From where you can buy? It is there, my dear. Please have a look at it. Next one is green bond. Very, very famous now. Right? If you have read the newspaper, you will know that Reserve Bank of India very recently has issued one round of green bond. Okay? Right? It has issued one round of green bond. What is the idea of a green bond? Simple. Don't complicate this. What is a green bond? These are the bonds which are issued either by the government or by government-owned entities or by private sector companies. But speciality about the green bonds is very simple. Whatever money is collected by issuing green bonds, they will use it only for specific type of projects. Is it okay? I'll repeat it. Right? Imagine a company is there. Company will issue a green bond. Can the company use the money that they have collected for any project? Anything that they want to do? Absolutely no. While issuing the green bond, they will tell the investors, for what purpose they are purchasing, for what purpose they are issuing the green bonds, what kind of projects will be covered under the green bonds. And please understand, look at the name there, green. Green means what? Environment friendly. Right? In order to protect the environment, environment friendly bonds, right, are issued. These are called as green bond. Sir, what kind of projects can be covered under the green bonds? This is a list. For example, solar energy projects, wind energy projects, right? Clean transportation projects, sustainable water management projects, climate change adaptation, energy efficiency projects, sustainable waste management, biodiversity conservation projects, etc. So argument is simple, right? What is this idea of a sovereign green bond? What is this idea of a green bond? Then I'll go to sovereign green bond. In case of green bonds, these are issued, money is collected, and these bonds can be utilized only for specific type of projects, not for any purposes. And these projects which will be financed from this amount of money will be environment friendly projects. Right, so these instruments can be issued by government. Best example, Government of India. Government owned entities. Any example of a government owned entity in India which has issued a sovereign, which has issued a green bond? Right, National Highways Authority of India, NHAI, National Highways Authority of India. Private sector companies, there are many private sector companies which have issued, right, the green bonds. Multilateral organization, World Bank. World Bank has issued green bonds. So whenever the government will issue the green bonds, these are called as sovereign green bonds. These are referred to as sovereign green bonds. Right? So whenever you come across the term sovereign, simple, government. Sovereign means government. Okay, so sovereign green bonds have been issued very recently by Government of India. 2 rounds have been proposed. 1 round is done. Another round will take place very soon. Now, what is the advantage of it? Simple. All around the world, not just in India, all around the world, don't you think now there is a trend of investing in certain projects using which either you will reduce the emission, you will, right, basically shift to a clean methodology of production, or in simple terms, there is this trend of becoming environment friendly. That is, right, there is a trend that every company wants to portray themselves, every government wants to invest in, let's say, clean projects, environment friendly projects. And that is a precise reason there is a growing trend of issuing more and more green bonds by the private sector, by the government owned entities, by multilateral organizations, as well as the government itself. And that is being done by the Government of India also. Right? For example, Government of India says by 2030 we will have 500 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity in India. 500 gigawatts. By 2070 we will reach, right, net zero emissions. By 2030 we will ensure railways will become carbon neutral, etc., etc. So in order to achieve all of it, right, basically Government of India is using the route of issuing sovereign green bonds. Now, one more very important feature which can be asked in UPSC is, remember this very carefully, whenever the sovereign green bonds, or for that matter green bonds, are issued, generally we expect them to be issued at a premium, so that the cost for the company will be lower, or cost for the issuer will be lower. Understand, slightly technical, understand this carefully. Whenever, right, these green bonds are issued, generally it is expected that, and it has happened in case of India, these are issued at a premium, so that the cost for the issuer will come down. Right? What do you mean by this? Let me give a very simple example. I hope you remember the concept of discounting. Right? Earlier we have looked at the concept of a discount. Right? That is in case of a zero coupon bond. I'll use a short form here. In case of zero coupon bond, the face value was 100. We issued at lower than 100 rupees, that is 90 rupees. That is issued at discount. Is the point clear? Now, when I say issued at premium. Right, I'm saying green bonds are issued at premium. Right, what is the meaning of issued at premium? Imagine the face value of the bond is actually 100. They will not be selling it at 100. They'll be selling it at, let's say, 105 rupees. They'll be selling it at 105 rupees. This is called as issued at premium. Any difficulty, please do let me know. Right, is the logic okay? Issued at discount means lower than the value of the product. Issued at a premium means higher than the value of the product. Now some of you will ask me, sir, if it is issued at a premium, you have used one more statement, that is, when these are issued at a premium, the cost for the issuer will come down. How? How does the cost for the issuer come down? Follow the next point carefully now. Slightly technical, but follow the point. Imagine the coupon rate is 10%. Imagine the coupon rate is 10%. So is it okay if I say coupon rate is calculated on 100 rupees? Is the logic okay? Right, coupon rate is 10%. Right, coupon rate is 10% and the coupon is calculated on the face value. Now imagine, right, imagine there is no 105. Right, forget about 105. Come to the point here. You have issued it at 100. You will pay 10% of the coupon rate, that is 10 rupee, right? So the investment will be 100 rupee and you will get how much? 10 rupee returns. So what is your yield rate? What is your yield rate? Your yield rate is 10%. Any disagreement, any concern, please do let me know. Your yield rate is 10%. But rather than purchasing the bond at 100, you have purchased the bond not at 100 but at 105 rupee. You have paid 105. Now is it okay if I say you will get 10% of the face value, that is the coupon amount, but your investment will be 105. Now do not calculate it. Is it okay if I say your yield rate will be less than 10%? Your yield rate will be less than 10%, which means the cost that is incurred by the issuer, right, for issuing the bond is less than 10%. Any difficulty? Let me know. Rather than paying 10 rupee by taking 100 rupee from you, the issuer is paying 10 rupee by taking 105 rupees. Don't you think the actual rate of interest that is paid by the issuer is actually lower? Is the logic okay? That's the reason these kind of statements will be used by UPSC. Do not be confused. Say yes. Right, the premium, these are issued at premium. Coupon rate is there, but these are issued at premium, that is more than the value of the bond. And as a result of this, cost for the company or the issuer would be lower. Shall I go to the next point here? Shall I go to the next point? Right? Can I go to the next point? What is the criteria? Again, don't worry how coupon is calculated. Don't worry about all of that. That is not relevant for you. Why will someone invest? My dear, then you are not reading current affairs. Right? I started with the same opening line. Don't you think more and more companies have started focusing on the concept of right, environment friendly image? There is an investment criteria which has started in the market which is called as ESG. Very, very famous now. Right? ESG, right? Environment, social governance. ESG type of investment. There are a lot of investors who are focused on how is the company doing. Is the company going green or not? Is the company using better technology which will protect the environment or not? There are investors in the market. You don't trust me? Type in the Google ESG and find out whether ESG investment has gone up or gone down in recent times. There are investors. Okay? Right, so again the same answer. If the price is higher, my dear, there is a demand for all of this. There's a demand for all of these types of bonds in the market. Okay, so this is the green bond. Let me go to the next one, masala bond. Very, very peculiar, very important. Right, questions have been asked, again can be asked in UPSC. Concept of masala bond. Now what is this masala bond? Follow this carefully. Follow the explanation very carefully. Imagine you are a company in India You will go to USA. You will issue the bond in USA. Now, can I simply say, when you issue the bond in USA, the value of the bond will be given in terms of dollars. Any difficulty, please do let me know. The value of the bond is, whatever is the value of the bond that you're issuing in the USA, the value of the bond will be in dollars. That is, you will issue in dollars, right? And you will collect the money, and you will use the, and later you will use the money and pay it back again in dollars. Simple. You have issued the bond, right? The value of the bond is given in dollars. You will collect the money in the form of dollars. You will pay the money in the form of dollars. Now, don't you think whenever you are borrowing and paying in terms of dollars, you are facing exchange rate risk? Whenever you borrow and pay in the form of dollars, you are facing exchange rate risk. Right, sir? What do you mean by exchange rate? When you are borrowing today, let's assume $1 is equal to 50 rupees. You are borrowing today, $1 is equal to 50. And after 1 year, you are repaying $1 is equal to 60 rupees. What is the impact of this? What do you think is the impact of this? You have borrowed $1, you need to pay $1 back. But now you are supposed to pay more rupees to get the same dollar. Right? So in simple terms, are you not facing an exchange rate risk when you issue the bonds in the foreign market, which are foreign currency denominated? I'm using bigger terms now, understand it. Right? Is it okay? I'll repeat the statement here. If you have a problem, please do let me know after this. When you are issuing the bonds in foreign currency, that is foreign currency denominated bonds, when you issue in the foreign market, the issuer will face exchange rate risk. Is the logic okay? Can I go to the next point here? Now, in order to address this particular exchange rate risk that you are going to face, RBI says, don't worry. There is one more type of a bond which is called as masala bond. Okay? Right? I know that you are facing a risk. So don't worry. Don't issue, or rather than issuing foreign currency denominated bond, there is one more bond called as masala bond. Now what happens in a masala bond? Let's start. You will go to USA. Imagine this is a masala bond. Right? Imagine this is a masala bond. You will go to USA. What is the currency for us? Right? Either you go or I go, don't worry. All of us are Indians. Right? Hum sab bhai bhai, right? Hindustani. So understand this. Right? What is the currency for us? Rupee. Right? Domestic currency for us is rupee. Now have a look at this. I will go to USA, issue the bond in USA, but the value of the bond will be given in rupees. I'll repeat it. I will go to USA. What is the domestic currency for me? Rupee. I will issue the bond, but the denomination means what? The value of the bond will be given in my domestic currency, that is rupees. Which means I will borrow the money by issuing rupee bond in terms of rupees, and I will make a payment in terms of rupees only. Is it okay? I will borrow in rupees, I will pay in rupees. Now, you tell me, if I borrow in rupee and make a payment in rupee, am I facing an exchange rate risk? Think of it. If I borrow in terms of rupee and make a payment, repayment in terms of rupee, am I facing in the exchange rate risk? Absolutely no. I will not face any kind of exchange rate risk. That is the beauty of masala bond. What is a masala bond? First, understand this. What is a masala bond? First, these bonds are issued in offshore market. Offshore market. What do you mean by offshore? Overseas. Overseas means outside India. That's the first point. These are issued in the offshore market, point number one. Second point, the denomination of the currency, the denomination of the bonds. the value of the bonds always is given in the domestic currency, right? The denomination of the bonds is always given in domestic currency, meaning the value of the bond is given in rupees. If a foreign investor wants to invest, right, they will have to convert and give it to me, right? They will have to basically calculate how many rupees is equal to dollar and make a payment to me. And when I'm making a payment, I will simply give rupees, and whatever is the exchange rate, let them convert that into dollar and take it, thereby ensuring that the borrower doesn't face the exchange rate risk, but the investor will face the exchange rate risk. Is it okay? The borrower doesn't face the exchange rate risk, the investor will face the exchange rate risk, right? So that is basically the concept of masala bonds. Very, very famous now. Companies are allowed to issue masala bonds, right? Global institutions are allowed to issue masala bonds. But look at the next point here. Look at the next very important point. Whenever you are going to issue a masala bond, that is, imagine I am going to issue a masala bond. I said investor, let's say from USA, will face a risk. Now your question will be, sir, why will they invest in my bond? Why will the USA citizen, or let's say USA company, purchase the masala bond? Simple, the coupon rate offered will be higher. I hope you understand. Coupon rate offered will be higher. Again, apply the basics of market. Higher the risk, higher should be returns. So we are offering a higher coupon rate. For example, in USA, generally the bonds will offer around 4%, around 5% returns to them. I will go to the USA market, offer 7%, offer 8%, offer 9%. But of course with a condition. What is the condition? Right, the condition is that I'm giving you higher interest rate, higher coupon rate, because the risk is higher. The investment will be done, right? The value of the bond is in rupees, and the returns you are going to earn will be in rupees. And because the payment is done in rupees, exchange rate risk will be borne by the foreign investor, not by the issuer here. Next point. Is India the only country which is allowed to issue such bonds? Such bonds means what? Issued outside, but in domestic currency. No. Right? I'll give you the name of the bond. Let me know which country do you think is allowed to issue such bonds. Right? Samurai bonds. Let me know. Samurai bonds. Which country do you think is associated with samurai bonds? Japan. The companies in Japan are allowed to issue these bonds in their domestic currency. Yen. Yen is a domestic currency for them. Yen, they are allowed to issue these bonds, right, in the foreign market, but denominated in domestic currency. Have you heard of baklava bonds? Baklava bonds. How many of you heard of baklava bonds? Baklava is a delicacy in Turkey. It is associated with Turkey now. Right? It is associated with Turkey. Somebody says Bangladesh. No. Baklava is a Turkish delicacy. Now many shops in India are also selling baklava. Right? A very, very famous delicacy from Turkey. Right? So understand this. Baklava bonds are basically associated with the companies located in Turkey. I'll give you one more example. Dim sum bonds. Dim sum. Dim sum. Right? What is this dim sum? Dim sum is basically momos. Dim sum bonds are issued by Chinese companies. So understand this. Generally, what is the practice? Practice is simple. Whenever these kinds of bonds are issued, the prefix, that is the name of the bond, will be associated with one of the features of a country. Generally, they will try to associate with something to eat, so that investors in the market automatically will understand what is the value of the currency in which, what is the value of the bond denominated in. Right, so that is a basic idea for masala bond. Any difficulty regarding this, please do let me know. RBI mandates that the original maturity period is of 3 years if the investment is up to $50 million or equivalent, right? And if the investment, that is the issue amount, is more than $50 million or equivalent of rupee, then the maturity period has to be 5 years. right? So these are basically some of the very important features of masala bonds. Can I go to the next one? Can I go to the next one? So just have a look at this. If the original maturity period of the bond, or let's say the value of the bonds that you're issuing is up to $50 million, then the bonds will have a maturity period of 3 years. And if the value of the bonds that you're issuing is more than $50 million, then the maturity period will be 5 years. That is basically that is given here. Why names are related to food? Because you can easily associate. Recollection value will be very, very high. Just understand this. Recollection value will be very, very high, right? Because understand this. In the international market, if I simply say bond and then I keep on telling them the value of the bond is in Chinese currency, value of the bond is in rupees, is it easier, or directly I'll say these are masala bonds? Which one do you think has a better recollection value? Right? So again, just to make the investors decisions much more easier, so that the market information is much more transparent. That is the reason these kind of names are used. Okay, done. Can I go to the next one here? Right, can I go to the next one? Right, today I'm happy. None of you have asked for a break. Right, I'm happy because as I said, somebody has asked. 2 people have asked for a break. Done. Okay, so before I start with the IPO and FPO, let's take a short break. But before that, any kind of questions you people have, please ask me. Otherwise, I'll take a break. Who operates TED platform? It is created by RBI. It is created by RBI. There are many companies which have basically set up their own types of trades platform. Trades is basically a system. I hope you understand. Trades is basically a system, right? System is supposed to have right, a lender, borrower, financier. That is a system. And there are many companies. For example, there is a company by the name of M1 Exchange. You can check it. M1 Exchange is there. Invoice Mart is there. These are basically having their platforms where this kind of a system is allowed. Okay. Whether commercial bills will be exchanged between both lender and borrower. Commercial bills once issued, after maturity, these will be exchanged. Why non-resident Indians cannot invest in SGB? Why non-resident Indians cannot invest? Again, there are certain conditions which are generally imposed, right? Because these might be not having Indian citizenship, etc., etc. Don't worry about all of it. If I want money, rather than going to bank, I can issue a bond. But as borrowing is up to 1 year, the bond is called a CP. Right? No, whenever you are having a short-term instrument, these are working capital instruments. These are generally in the form of commercial papers, certificates of deposit, etc. Whenever you issue, that's a basic feature. Whenever you issue instruments which will have more than 1 year, these are called as bonds. Repo and reverse repo, easier ways to understand. My dear, how difficult is repo when I say RBI will give a loan to a bank, charge a rate of interest on it? I don't know how to make it much more easier. RBI gives a loan, charges a rate of interest on it. I said it is repo. Your question is, tell me much more easier way to understand. You tell me how can I make it much more easier. Simple transaction. RBI gives a loan, charges a rate of interest on it. That is repo rate. Banks will keep deposits with RBI. RBI will give rate of interest on it to bank. That is reverse repo. Okay. Okay, done. Let's take a break now. Let's take a break. I'll restart at 12:10. I'll restart the session at 12:10. Okay. Welcome back. Am I audible? Let's start then. Am I audible? Okay. So let's start. So the next concept I'll be discussing is IPO and FPO. Right? IPO and the concept of FPO. Now, if you're confused, sir, where are we? Actually, in that chart, where are we? Right? I hope you look at this particular chart again. I hope you understand it. We basically started from the financial market, then we moved to the money market, then went through all these instruments in the money market. Then from money market, like a monkey, we shifted to a capital market, and from or within the capital market, we have gone through the debt instruments. Now we have shifted to equity market. Right? Is the sequence okay with you? Right? We have basically moved like this. We are here now. Right? We are in the equity market. And before I go forward, in the debt market, I've discussed a lot of these concepts which are there in current affairs. For example, generally in the books, sovereign gold bond is not mentioned. Additional tier 1 bond is not mentioned. You will have to write. I hope you understand. Additional tier 1 bond is the latest type of a bond in the market. Sovereign green bond, new type of a bond. Right? There is also tier 2 bonds, new type of a bond. These are not normal bonds. Right? Traditionally, these concepts were not there, or for that matter, masala bond. These are not traditional bonds. These are the types of bonds which have evolved over a period of time, and especially in the last couple of years, these bonds have become very, very famous. Okay, so with that caveat, let me continue. We are in the equity market now. By the way, we are in the equity market. Now, within the equity market, what concepts you need to understand, we'll discuss, we'll connect it to a lot of current affairs. So let's go one by one. There is a term called as IPO. There is something called as an FPO. I'll come to this, but before that, have a look at this. Let's look at the basics first. Now, what do you mean by share? Whenever you come across the term share, share represents units of ownership. Is the logic okay? Share is nothing but it's a unit of ownership. That is, if you purchase certain shares of the company, for example, if you have purchased shares of Adani company, if you have purchased shares of a Paytm company, Zomato company, right, Infosys company, you have certain amount of ownership in the company. Shareholders are nothing but owners. I hope you understand. Shareholders are nothing but owners of the company. That is, if you take the shares of all these owners, the sum total will be how much? 100%. 100% of the shares will be distributed in the sense purchased, bought, sold, etc. amongst all these, right, the shareholders like this. So share is nothing but unit of ownership. Okay, by purchasing these shares, you get certain percentage of ownership in the company. And shares are tradable in the market. Tradable means what? You can purchase the shares, you can sell the shares. For example, today, although stock market is not open, let's say when it is open, can you purchase shares of Zomato? Of course, yes. Why not? Only thing is that you are supposed to have a right demat account. Can you purchase shares of Zomato? Yes. Can you purchase shares of Paytm? Yes. Can you sell the shares of Paytm? Answer is simply yes. These are tradable in nature. These are tradable. Tradable simply means bought and sold in the market. Shares are measured always in terms of quantitative numbers. Remember this. 5 lakh shares, 20 lakh shares, at 353 shares. Quantity is given for shares. Now, why I'm explaining so much, there is also a term called as equity. There is also a term called as equity, right? Either they will use the term equity or they will also use the term stake holding in a company. Always remember this, shares are given in numbers, that is 500 shares, right? Let's say 3000 shares, 5,53,000 shares, numbers are given. Whereas the equity is always given in terms of percentages. Is that okay? Equity is given in terms of percentages. For example, if you're reading the newspaper, they'll say that Mr. Adani owns 70% of the equity. 70% of the total number of shares in Adani Enterprises. What does it mean? Whatever is the total number of shares, out of that 70% is with one person, or let's say group of investors like this. That is the meaning of the equity here. Any difficulty here, please do let me know. Right? Equity represents percentage ownership. Simple. Again, it could be for a listed company, unlisted company. I'll come to what is listed, unlisted. Please have patience. But the argument is equity. Equity is percentage. It is ownership in percentage. Whereas the shares are individual units. For example, have a look at this. Let's say there is a company ABC. The company ABC has issued 5 lakh shares in the market, and you have purchased 20,000 out of it. You have purchased 20,000 shares out of it. Then you simply have an equity or ownership to the extent of 4% of the company. You simply own 4% of the company. That is basically the idea of equity as well as the shares. Any difficulty here? Any difficulty? Now, don't worry about IPO, FPO. I have not yet started IPO and FPO. I'll go to that also. Have patience. And when you talk about equity, that is shares here, there are two types, right? Traditionally, there are two types. Again, right, over a period of time, evolution has taken place here. You don't worry. For civil services, just stick to two, more than sufficient. One is called as an equity share. Second one is called as a preference share. And right, rather than using the term equity share, they will also simply use the term simply share. Right? When they use the term shares, they are basically referring to equity shares. Now, what do you mean by equity shares and preference shares? What is the basic idea? Follow this carefully. Here is a company, and let's say the company has issued shares. You have purchased the shares of company, which means you have invested money on a share. Why should you invest it? Right? Why should you purchase the shares of the company? Right? There are two ways you will have certain benefits from this. Right? What are the two ways? One, what if you purchase the share of a company? Imagine this is a share of a company. Again, demat. Always demat. But to make it simple, I'm using it. Imagine you've purchased the share of the company, and when you purchased, you paid 100 rupees for the share. In the market, after a certain time period, the market price of the share goes up to 120 rupees. Is it okay if I say you have purchased it at 100, now you will sell it at 120, thereby making a profit of 20 rupees. Any difficulty, please do let me know. You purchased it at 100, you sold it in the market at 120, thereby making a profit of 20. I'm using the term making a profit. They will use the term booking a profit of 20 rupees. Sir, what if the prices go down? That can also happen. There are instances that can also happen. You have purchased the share in the market at 100. The price of the share will go down to, let's say, 85. Now you will sell it at 85. You have incurred a loss of 15 rupees. So gain also can happen. Loss also is equally possible. It all depends on the market parameters. What is the supply? What is the demand? Right? What is the performance of the company? Is there any scam happening in the company? Right? Is the policy of the government of India affecting the company, etc., etc., etc. So there are so many parameters that will have the influence or that will have an impact on the market price of the share. Right? So one benefit that you can get is you will purchase the share at a lower price, and when the price goes up, you will sell it at higher price. Second, right, this is one advantage. Second, imagine you have not sold the share, you are still the owner of a share. Company earns profits. The company earns profits. Part of the profit is given to shareholder. Is it okay? The company earns profit. That is very important. Company earns profit, and part of the profit is given to shareholders. Sir, why? Simple question to you people. Who is the owner of the company? Apply basics economics now. Who is the owner of the company? Owner of the company is nothing but shareholder. And if the company earns profit, who should get that profit? The owner of the company should get the profit. And who is the owner of the company? Shareholders are the owners of the company. Right? So part of the profits are given to the shareholder, and this is called as a dividend. How much is given to the shareholder? That is called as dividend. Is it okay now? Is it okay? Right? So the two benefits that you can derive by purchasing a share is you will buy low, sell high. Right? The terms are buy low, sell high, book profit. Or else you will keep owning the share, right? And the part of the profit is given to the shareholders of the company, which is called as a dividend. Who will decide the dividend? The board of directors will decide the dividend. Generally, again, this is all technical. The face value of the share is generally decided at 10 rupees. Face value of the share is kept at 10 rupee. And if they say 60% dividend is given, that is a 6 rupee dividend is given per share. If they say 20% dividend, 2 rupee per share is given as a dividend. It all depends on how much profits are earned by the company. Now there is one more question, sir. What if the company doesn't earn profit? Let me ask you the same question. If you are owner of a company and the company doesn't earn profit, rather incurs a loss, will you get dividend? Just think of it. Will you get dividend? If there is no profit, how will you get dividend? Right? So that is basic idea of a dividend here. So first, equity share and preference share. In the context of equity share, there is no fixed dividend. I hope you understand. The amount of dividend that is given will vary, or even I'll say might vary, because what if the company incurs a loss? That is, if the company incurs a loss, the company might decide, let's not distribute any dividend this year because there is no profit. So argument is, whenever you simply use the term equity share or the term share, the amount of a dividend that is given is not fixed. It will vary from one year to next year. Now, don't you think if the dividend varies like this, you are taking a higher risk there? By purchasing a share, you are taking a higher risk. But what is the advantage in case of these kind of shares? These equity shareholders are given the right to vote. Remember this. The equity shareholders are given the right to vote. What is this idea for voting? Whenever the decisions are supposed to be made, by a company, right? Let's say they want to purchase one more company. They want to increase the payment of the CEO, right? They want to diversify their business, etc., etc. They will ask for the voting. They will ask for the viewpoint of the owners. Who are the owners? Shareholders. So whenever these kind of decisions are supposed to be taken, the shareholders, that is the equity shareholders, will have the right to vote. They will have the right to vote. Now, on the other side, there is also a term called as preference shareholder. Okay, preference shareholder. Now, these are referred as hybrid instruments. Why hybrid instruments? Follow this carefully. Is it okay if I say, in context of a bond, in case of a bond, right, there is a certain amount of returns provided. Sir, what do you mean by returns provided? Imagine the bond value is 100, face value, and the coupon rate is 10%. Is it okay if I say you will get 10 rupees annually? Think of it. Is it okay if I say you will get 10 rupees annually? Because that is a basic idea of a bond. Now, whatever is going to happen in a company, whatever is the market price of the bond, doesn't matter. You will keep on earning 10 rupees on a bond. Now, look at the concept of a preference share. Preference shares are nothing but shares. These are issued to the investors. But the speciality about the preference share is a fixed amount of a dividend is given. Again, profit should be made. Remember that also. A fixed amount of a dividend. That is, imagine this is a preference share. You will purchase a preference share. And let's say company says, from the profit annually, I'll give you 4 rupees. So annually from the profit, you will keep on receiving 4 rupees fixed, right? It will not increase it to 5. They will not reduce it to 3 also. Annually from the profit, you will be given 4 rupees. That is a preference shareholder fixed returns. Now, don't you think compared to equity shareholders, you are much safe? Just think of it. Compare between equity and a preference share. Don't you think if you purchase a preference share, you are taking comparatively lower risk? Is it okay? I will repeat the statement. Right? You are taking a lower risk compared to an equity shareholder. Now, if you are taking a lower risk, right, don't you think certain advantages will not be given to you, or certain features are not available to you? That is, if you purchase a normal share, that is an equity share, you will get a voting right. If you purchase a preference share, because compared to the normal shareholders, you are taking a lower risk, right? You will not have the advantage of voting, right? You will not be given the voting right, right? So that is the basic idea for equity shares and preference shares. Can I go to the next one? Can I go to the next one? Preference shares are like bonds, my dear. That's the reason, right? Understand what we are discussing, right? In the context of bonds, will you not get the repayment? I hope you understand. In the context of bonds, will you not get the repayment? That is the principal amount. Will you not get it back? That is, a bond is issued, there is a liability. Do you think under the preference shares, the companies will have liability? Think of it. In the context of preference shares, do you think they will have liability? Company has a liability? No. Company says, I'll give you 4 rupees fixed. Every year I'll give you 4. But that is provided I earn profit. And if you have paid 100 rupees for a preference share, company doesn't repay it back. These are not repayable. There is no maturity period for shares. I hope you understand. There is no maturity period. Right? So one is equity share. Second one is preference shares. Now, why this is important? Please connect it to other points as well that we are discussing. Do you remember yesterday when I was discussing cooperative banking? I'd used it. When I was discussing cooperative banking, there was one provision which said, as per the latest Amendment Act of Banking Regulation Act of 1949, I'm going back to yesterday, right? As per the latest amendment that has been done by the government to the Banking Regulation Act of 1949, that is in 2020, now the cooperative banks are allowed to issue bonds, are allowed to issue shares. Now, is it okay? Right? Shares. What kind of shares the cooperative banks can issue? They can issue preference shares or they can issue equity shares. Can I go forward then? Can I go forward? Are these tradable? Of course, yes. Any types of shares are tradable, provided, I'll come to the point here, provided these are listed in the market. The company has to be listed in the market. That is very important. What is listing? I'll come to this now. Right? Can I go to the next point? What is the concept of listing, IPO, FPO, etc.? Now come to this. IPO and FPO. What is an IPO? IPO stands for Initial Public Offering. IPO stands for Initial Public Offering and FPO stands for Follow-on Public Offering. And some of the books will say Further Public Offering. Doesn't matter, right? Multiple names are used. Most famous is Follow-on Public Offering, IPO, FPO. Now follow this very carefully. Don't be confused. Follow the concept once very carefully. Now imagine you start a company. Okay, you start a company, you have invested and the company grows. Grows in the sense, the company increases manufacturing, company wants to enter into multiple markets, etc., etc. Now what you will do is, before starting to sell the shares in the market or before even going for an IPO, you will take money from certain investors in the market. For example, you must have heard of names like this, Tiger Global, right? I hope you have heard of this, Tiger Global. Right? There are multiple companies like this, investing companies. So what you have done is you have borrowed from them. Now you tell me, rather than using the term borrowing will be wrong. You have taken money from them. Now imagine, right, follow this carefully. Imagine you are one of the investor. You will give me, let's say, 500 crore rupees. Now let me ask you a very simple question. Are you doing a charity here? In return, will you not expect something from me? I hope you understand. In return, will you not expect something? Of course, yes, you will expect it. What is your expectation? If you give me, let's say, 500 crore, you will expect, let's say, 10% ownership in a company. So what I've done, I've taken 500 crore rupees from you. I will give you 10% ownership. Agreed? I'll give you 10%. So now what has happened? Earlier, I was the only owner. I owned 100% of the company. Now, right, I've given you 10%, which means my ownership has come down to 90%. Your ownership is 10%. And let's say after 2 or 3 years, further the company increases, performs very well. I want to purchase one more company. I want to expand my operations, right? I want to manufacture more, etc., etc., etc. For these purposes, I require money. So what I'll do now, my company is famous now. There are investors in the market who know about me. So what I will do is, for the first time, underline that term, for the first time, I will sell the shares of the company. Earlier, what was the share ownership? Until now, 90% of the share was owned by me. 10% share was owned by you. Now, for the first time ever, I will sell the ownership, that is the shares of the company, to the public. Is it okay? Right? I hope you understand. Right? Until now, the ownership was there between you and me. Now, what we are doing? We are selling this ownership, let's say, from my side, from 90%, I will reduce it to, let's say, 75%, which means 15% of ownership, I will sell it. And you will also say, okay, sir, take my 10% also. So what we have done? 25%. In fact, it has to be at least 25%. I hope you understand. It has to be at least 25%. Meaning what? Whenever the company will start selling the shares, whenever the company will decide to sell the shares to the public, at least 25% has to be sold like this out of 100%. I hope you understand. At least 25% should be sold. It could be 30, it could be 40, it could be 70, anything. But it has to be more than or equal to 25%. Right? So now look at this. 25% of the shares, we will take it and sell it to the public. We will simply sell it to the public. That is, you can purchase the shares of this company. Your relatives can purchase. A bank can purchase the shares of the company. Now, is it okay, right? Look at all of this and tell me, is it okay if I say the sale to the public, the share sale to the public is being done by the company for the first time? For the first time ever, the company, that is the owners of the company, are selling the shares to the public. Is it okay? So whenever the company does it for the first time ever, it is called as initial public offering. Is it okay? Right? This is referred to as initial public offering, IPO, initial public offering. Now, is the logic okay? Right? What do you mean by initial public offering? Until now, the share ownership was with private people. Private people means it could be an investor, it could be an individual, that is the owner of the company, etc. Now the ownership, that is the shares, now have been sold in the market, right? The people can purchase the shares, people can sell the shares, they can trade the shares of the company. That is the reason, remember this, whenever any company goes for an IPO, we'll call this as listed company. Is it okay? Whenever a company goes for an IPO, it is called as a listed company, right? What do you mean by listed company? I'll give an example, right? Zomato is a listed company. Paytm is a listed company. What does it mean? the shares of the Paytm, shares of the Zomato are there in the stock market. You can purchase, you can sell the shares of the Paytm and Zomato. Same thing, can I say with respect to Adani? Is it okay? Can we attribute the same thing, that is a listed company, to Adani? Infosys, yes. TCS, yes. Right, so the companies which will go for an IPO simply means the shares are sold for the first time ever to the public. Now, what if the company sells the shares again in the future? I have to understand, right? Imagine the same example. I'll continue with that. Imagine this, the selling of the shares was done for the first time ever in 2022. First time ever in 2022, IPO. What if the same company again conducts a sale of the shares in 2030? What if they conduct a sale of the shares in 2040? That is, a listed company again sells shares to the public. This is called as an FPO. Further public offering or follow-on public offering. That is, can I give you current affairs? Adani Group of companies. Right? Adani Group of companies. Adani Group of companies are already listed. I hope you understand, they are already listed. But they further means once more issued the shares to the public. Right? That is called as FPO, follow-on public offering. Any difficulty in understanding this? Any difficulty in understanding this, please do let me know. Now, there are two ways through which FPO can be conducted. One, right, follow this example very carefully. Don't be confused. Before we went for IPO, you owned 10%, I owned 90%. So when we went for IPO, we took my 15%, your 10%, we sold 25% to the market. Right? Anybody, right, or other investors are owning 25% now. Now, can I write the ownership like this? Can I write the ownership like this? 75% of the shares are owned by me, 25% by everybody else in the market. It could be investor A, B, bank C, right, or a house D, etc., etc., etc. Now, whenever we go for an IPO, there are two ways. One, I will sell part of my ownership again. I understand this. I will sell part of my ownership again in the market. Right? I'm simplifying it. This 75% could be owned by three owners. Let's say A, B, and C. Imagine there are three partners. A owns 30%, B owns 20%, and C owns 25%. So all the three will come together and say, okay, right, A will sell 10% more, B will sell 10% more, and C will sell 10% more. So they have put together 10%, 10%, 10%, that is 30% of the shares. Now they have decided, let's sell it. Let's sell it. Right, which means once an FPO is conducted of 30% of the ownership of the company, right, is it okay? Right, is it okay if I say in this case, the partnership or the percentage of the shares, or let's say number of shares which were held by ABC have come down. That percentage has come down and the shares held by them has come down. Any problem with this? Any problem with this? Let me know. What is the second way? The owners will not sell their shares, they will create more shares. Is it okay? They will create more shares. That is, let's say hypothetically, the company has, right, I'll take a simple number, 1000 shares. Another 500 shares will be created and these 500 shares will be sold in the market now. Anyways, the percentage ownership of the owners will come down, promoters will come down, but the number of shares held will not change. Right? Imagine out of 1000, A was holding, I'll just throw arbitrary number, don't start calculating here. Out of 1000 shares, existing shares of the company, A was owning, let's say 200 shares. Now 500 more shares are created, sold in the market, FPO, sold in the market. Will the number of shares held by A, will it change? No, it is still 200. Is it okay? It is still 200. But percentage will automatically change. I hope you understand. Percentage will automatically change. So there are different ways through which FPO can be conducted. Or other case, I'll tell you another case. Sir, is it always that whenever FPO is conducted, percentage ownership of the promoters will come down? Is it always so? Not necessary. Absolutely not necessary. How is that possible? Let me show it. Right? Take the example. A owns 30%. He is the promoter. Promoter means one of the founder, one of the people who started the company, invested and started. Right? B owns 20% and C owns 25%. Now B and C will come together. They will say, we want to sell 10%, 10%. A doesn't join them. B will say, we want to sell 10%, 10%. So in the FPO, 20% is sold. Now, simple question, in this FPO, has the percentage ownership, has the percentage stake of A changed? This is the third example I'm giving. Right? Think of this. In the third example, B and C have come together. They want to sell percentage of the ownership. A will not join them. A will simply say, okay, you sell. I'll simply sit quietly. I will neither purchase nor sell. So in this case, has the percentage ownership of the promoter, has it changed? Answer is no. So these are the basics related to concept of an FPO. Please be very, very careful. Okay, so IPO, whenever the company sells the shares for the first time to the public, it is called as an IPO. Whenever company, that is a listed company, will issue the shares again and again, right, after IPO, this is called as an FPO, follow-on public offering. Right, this is the discussion regarding IPO and FPO. There is one more term called as a primary market and secondary market. Right, there is one more concept called as primary market and secondary market. Now, what is this primary market? Whenever new instruments are issued for the first time, I hope you understand this. Whenever new instruments are issued, new instrument, underline the term new instrument. New means what? Until now, these instruments were not there. Now these have been introduced. That is called as a primary market. And whenever the instruments which are already there in the market are bought and sold, that is called as a secondary market. I'll give a very simple example. Is it okay if I say IPO will happen in primary market? Just think of it. IPO will happen in the primary market. Is the logic okay? What do you mean by primary market? The instrument was not there in the market. Now it has been introduced in the market. That is, the company so far has not issued shares to the market. Now I will sell the share of the company to you. Was this share earlier present in the market for trading purposes? No, this was not there. Now it has introduced or it has been brought to the market. This is IPO. So IPO, primary market. What about FPO? Whenever in FPO new shares are created, I hope you understand this. Whenever in an FPO new shares are created, because in FPO there are multiple ways, I've told you. Existing shares will be put together by the promoters, sold. Those are not new shares. But what if the company creates new shares in an FPO? Whenever in the FPO, whenever new shares are created, generally we say it is again in the primary market. So don't be confused. When I use the term market here, do not imagine there is actually a market. Do not imagine that there is a place, everybody will go there, right? The owners of the company are holding shares like this, das ka base, they are shouting, you will go to them and purchase. No, don't imagine that. Right? Market doesn't mean that market here. It's basically a virtual system. That company will call for, right, let's say, subscriptions for this. You will apply. They will allocate it online. These will be transferred into a demat account online. Everything is done online now. So whenever new shares which were not there in the market are introduced, this is called as a primary market. And when these instruments are there in the market and these are traded, this is called as secondary market. For example, is it okay if I say BSE and NSE, it is right a secondary market. What is BSE? Bombay Stock Exchange. What is NSE? National Stock Exchange. Please read today's newspaper, you'll understand. Adani's, right, two of the companies of Adani's, the shares are being included in the NSE now, right? Anyways, right, that is not calculation, etc. Don't worry about it. Argument is simple. What do you think will happen in BSE? When you say listed, right, these shares are listed in the BSE, that is in the Bombay Stock Exchange. The company is there, the name of the company is there, shares are available for trading purposes. That is the meaning of the term listing. So I'll repeat it again. Whenever you say secondary market, the shares which are already there in the market or instruments which are already there in the market, these are traded, these are bought, these are sold, right? That is called as a secondary market. Bombay Stock Exchange is an example of a secondary market. National Stock Exchange is an example of a secondary market. Is the logic okay? Can I go forward from here? What is primary, what is secondary, what is IPO, what is FPO, etc., etc., etc. Can I go forward here? How in FPO owners will club? My dear, right? How will the owners club? Simple. Imagine three of you have started a company, right? And amongst all the three of you, certain ownership is there. Now you want to sell it off. Under FPO, you can do it, right? You will basically take part of your ownership, right? Club it and sell it, right? So that is how it is generally done under FPO. Companies are listed where? In NSE or BSE? You can be listed in NSE also. You can be listed, right, in BSE. Either one of the two markets you will choose. Here ABC is a company. Where is ABC? Where is ABC written? ABC is the owner of a company, promoters of the company, promoters, owners of the company. Okay. Example of primary market. That's a problem with the students. I said everything happens virtually. You're asking me example of a primary market. I'll repeat it again. Can you understand the term virtual? Just let me know the answer, by the way. Virtual means what? There is no physical space that is there. There is no physical space. You imagine market means you imagine, okay, building is there, etc., etc. Nothing of that sort, right? For example, FPO. FPO was conducted very recently. Do you think Mr. Gautam Adani was standing in a market with shares like this? Do you imagine that? Right? Absolutely no. It is done virtually. Okay, virtually. Okay. Now come to this. Primary market, secondary market. Right, the company issuing the shares to the public for the first time ever, right, it is basically said to be IPO, initial public offering. And once IPO is done, next round of issuance is a FPO, follow-on public offering. And once the company, right, goes for an IPO, we'll simply say this is a listed company. This is a listed company. Right, the shares which already are there in the market now can be used for trading purposes such as a National Stock Exchange or in the Bombay Stock Exchange. That is called as secondary market. So primary market and secondary market. Now that is a discussion regarding the stock market, right, the NSE, the IPO, FPO, etc. Now before going forward, let me discuss one current affairs concept which was there in the newspaper. But again, if you're writing the exam this year, that is relevant. By next year, the concept would be dead. Right? What is the concept I'm referring to? Short selling. Very, very famous. But because of right certain events that have taken place recently, the term short selling has become very famous. Now I'll explain to you the concept of short selling. Follow it very carefully. Point number one. Imagine this is tradable in the market. Imagine, right? Tradable means what? You can purchase, you can sell. Point one. Point number two. Because this is a tradable, that is purchased, sold, again purchased, sold in the market, market price of this will keep on changing. Is it okay? Market price of this will keep on changing, right? Point number two. Point number three. Imagine you have this bottle. Point number three. Follow this. You have the bottle. I will borrow the bottle from you. Is it okay? Imagine you have the bottle. I will borrow the bottle from you. Now what I'll do? Today, let's say the market price of the bottle is 1000 rupees. I will sell the bottle in the market. So how much money I will get by selling? I will get 1000 rupees. Right? Point number three. Next point. Because this is a tradable. Tradable means what? Right? This is bought and sold in the market. Don't you think the market price of this bottle will keep on changing? Is it okay? Market price will keep on changing. Today it is 1000. What if after 2 days it will fall down to 800 rupees? Today it is 1000. After 2 days it will fall down to 800 rupees. Now what I'll do? I have 1000 rupees. I will use 800 out of this, purchase the bottle, give it to you. Look at this. This is basically short selling, right? What is the process here? I will borrow certain assets from you, instruments. And today the market price, whatever it is, I will sell it in the market, get the money. I don't own them. I basically borrowed them. And after a couple of days, the market price of these instruments will fall down. Whatever money I have, I will use it to purchase the instrument. Obviously, I have more than what is required. I will purchase the instrument, hand it over back to you, and I've made a profit of 200 rupees. This is the basic concept of short selling. This is basically the beauty of short selling. Is it okay with you? Right? Is the concept okay with you? What has happened? I don't own the shares. I don't own the shares. I have borrowed the shares from you. I have sold the shares in the market, got the market price today, because I know after some time the market price will fall. Market price will fall after some time. So what has happened? I've sold it right now. And is it okay if I say, when I sell it right now, I have sold it at high. Sold this product at high. First, I will sell it at high. Market price will come down. I will purchase the instrument again, that is bought at low. Bought at low. And right, I've taken the instrument, I've borrowed the instrument from you. I will return the instrument to you. Is it okay? But what has happened in the process? When I sold, I got 1000. When I purchased it, I purchased it at 800. So I have spent 800. I have earned 1000. 200 rupees is my profit. 200 is my profit. This is called as short selling. Right? Any difficulty? Please do let me know. This is called as short selling. Now some of you are asking, sir, what if the market price goes up? You will incur losses then. Simple. You will incur losses. Your expectation is market price will go down. But rather than market price going down, what if the market price goes up? You have incurred a loss. It's as simple as that. Right? The whole funda or the whole theory of short selling rests on a concept wherein you expect the market price to go down in the next time or in some time. It could happen on the same day. It could happen after 1 day also. Right? That is why you need to operate very carefully when you are focused on the short selling, because you should know the fundamentals of the market very carefully. Otherwise, you will end up incurring huge amount of losses. So understand this very carefully. Why would anyone like to purchase if he knows the prices will fall? My dear, do you believe that everybody in the market is just like you? Is thinking just like you? Do you believe everybody is just like you in the market? How? How? I hope you understand this. If you sell the share, somebody buys the share, why do you think he's buying? Why are you selling? That is my question. Right? You're simply assuming in the market, everybody in the market just is thinking just like you. It is wrong. Your expectation is market prices will go down. Are you always sure? Are you always sure? No. That's the reason in case of short selling, if the prices rather than going down, if they go up, it will backfire and you will incur a huge amount of losses because of that. This is basically the concept of short selling. Any difficulty in understanding this? Any difficulty, please do let me know. This was there in the newspaper. Don't search this in the book. Books don't cover it because it was there in the current affairs. I'm discussing this. Any difficulty related to short selling, please do let me know. Sir, where it was there in the newspaper, read about Adani group of companies. It was there related to Adani group of companies. Right? So this concept is referred as short selling. Right? So you will purchase it at high, right? And you will sell it at low. Right? I hope you understand. A purchase means borrow. Borrow when the price is high. You will sell, right? Or you will return it when the price is low. And this is against the traditional concept. What is the traditional concept? What is the traditional concept? Traditionally, you will buy low, sell high. I hope you understand. Traditionally, you buy low and sell high. That is what you do. Right? That is, sequence is like this. You buy first, then you sell. But here, you are selling first, then you are buying. Is it okay? Right? I understand. Traditionally in the market, what generally investors do? They will buy low, first buy, and then sell. But here what you're doing? You're first selling and you're then buying. Right? Against the traditional concept. This is called as short selling. Right? Now, any issues, please do let me know. Next concept is external commercial borrowing. That is in short, ECB, which I'll take up after the lunch break. Okay, let's take the lunch break. But before that, if you have any doubts, please do let me know now. Right? Otherwise, I'll take the lunch break now. Any issues related to whatever we have discussed? Any issues? Can a company issue more number of new shares in the market? If yes, or does it affect ownership? You tell me, my dear. Did we not discuss this? If a company issues more shares, what will happen to the percentage of ownership that you're holding now? We have discussed it already. Right? 1,000 shares are there. New 500 shares are issued. Will the ownership percentage, will it not change? Of course it will change. Of course it will change. That is generally what will happen. Who do they borrow from? Stockbrokers are there. There are many people who will do that in the market. Right? Again, there is one more term called as F&Os, futures and options. Very technical, you don't enter into that. There is a concept called as F&O, futures and options. Okay. How do you define short selling? It's basically an instrument used in the market wherein investors, right, sell at high, buy at low. That is basically a definition of short selling. How FPO not in the primary market? I said FPO can be done multiple ways. Understand this very carefully. Right? The shares which are already there in the market, these are pooled and sold. That is an FPO. Right? Promoters will come together and they will sell it. That is an FPO. But new shares are not created there. But in another case, the owners are not selling their ownership. Nobody is selling the shares. New shares are created. That is, right, a primary market. Means, sir, first I borrow shares, sell it at high price, and when the prices of shares goes down, I purchase it back. Is it short selling? Is it not the same thing that I've explained just now? I said you will borrow shares, you will sell it, prices are high. When the prices will go down, you will purchase it, return back the shares. Same thing what you're writing is the same thing that I've explained. That is basically a process of short selling. Okay, any difficulty? Any other questions? How can you borrow shares of officials in the market? My dear, it's just like borrowing anything. Again, that's the reason I'm saying don't get into all of it. Right? Then you should know what is the forward, so what is the future, what is the option. Not required, right? Leave it. Just understand this, more than sufficient. Okay, done. Let's take a break then. Right? We'll restart at 2 p.m. Right? Take a lunch break. We'll restart at 2 p.m. again. Okay? Take a lunch break now.